Welcome to Book Club, episode 2 for Sea of Monsters. I'm really excited. Everyone ready? Everyone get comfy, everyone get cozy. Chapter 7. I accept gifts from a stranger. Why is Percy accepting gifts? Does he not remember what happened last time? Okay. Here we go. The way Tantalus saw it, the Stymphalian birds had simply been minding their own business in the woods and would have not attacked if Annabeth, Tyson, and I hadn't disturbed them with our bad chariot driving. This was so completely unfair. I told Tantalus to go chase a donut, which didn't help his mood. He sentenced us to kitchen patrol, scrubbing pots and platters all afternoon in the underground kitchen with the cleaning harpies. The harpies washed with lava instead of water to get that extra clean sparkle and kill 99.9% of all germs, so Annabeth and I had to wear asbestos gloves and aprons. Tyson didn't mind. He plunged his bare hands right in and started scrubbing, but Annabeth and I had to suffer through hours of hot, dangerous work, especially since there were tons of extra plates. Tantalus had ordered a special luncheon banquet to celebrate Clarice's chariot victory, a full-course meal featuring country-fried Stymphalian deathbird. Oh my gosh, can I just say, which I said it last time, I don't like Tantalus. At all. Like, at all. Oh my gosh. Okay. The only good thing about our punishment was that it gave Annabeth and I a common enemy and lots of times to talk. After listening to my dream about Grover again, she looked like she might be starting to believe me. If he's really found it, she murmured, and if we could retrieve it. Hold on, I said. You act like this, whatever it is Grover found, is the only thing in the world that could save the camp. What is it? I'll give you a hint. What do you get when you skin a ram? Messy? She sighed. A fleece. The coat of a ram is called a fleece. And if that ram happened to have golden wool, the golden fleece. Are you serious? Annabeth scraped a plateful of deathbird bones into the lava. Percy, remember the Grey sisters? They said they knew the location of the thing you seek. And they mentioned Jason. 3,000 years ago, they told him how to find the golden fleece. You do know the story of Jason and the Argonauts. Yeah, I said. That old movie with the clay skeletons. Annabeth rolled her eyes. Oh my gods, Percy, you were so hopeless. What? I demanded. Just listen. The real story of the fleece. There were these two children of Zeus, Cadmus and Europa, okay? They were about to get offered up as human sacrifices when they prayed to Zeus to save them. So Zeus sent this magical flying ram with golden wool, which picked them up in Greece and carried them all the way to Colchis in Asia Minor. Well, actually it carried Cadmus. Europa fell off and died along the way, but that's not important. It was probably important to her. The point is, when Cadmus got to Colchis, he sacrificed the golden ram to the gods and hung the fleece in a tree in the middle of the kingdom. The fleece brought prosperity to the land. Animals stopped getting sick. Plants grew better. Farmers had bumper crop. Plagues never visited. That's why Jason wanted the fleece. It can revitalize any land where it's placed. It cures sickness, strengthens nature, clears up pollution. It could cure Talia's tree. Annabeth nodded. And it would totally strengthen the borders of Camp Half-Blood. But Percy, the fleece has been missing for centuries. Tons of heroes have searched for it with no luck. But Grover found it, I said. He went looking for Pan and he found the fleece instead because they both radiate nature magic. It makes sense, Annabeth. We can rescue him and save the camp at the same time. It's perfect. Annabeth hesitated. A little too perfect, don't you think? What if it's a trap? I remembered last summer how Kronos had manipulated our quest. He'd almost fooled us into helping him start a war that would have destroyed Western civilization. What choice do we have? I asked. Are you going to help me rescue Grover or not? She glanced at Tyson, who'd lost interest in our conversation and was happily making toy boats out of cups and spoons in the lava. Percy, she said under her breath, we have to fight a Cyclops. Polymetheus, the worst of the Cyclops. And there's only one place his island could be, the Sea of Monsters. Where's that? She stared at me like she thought I was playing dumb. The Sea of Monsters? The same sea Odysseus sailed through, and Jason, and Aeneas, and all the others. You mean the Mediterranean? No. Well, yes, but no. Another straight answer. Thanks. Look, Percy, the Sea of Monsters is the sea all heroes sail through on their adventures. It used to be in the Mediterranean, yes, but like everything else, it shifts location as the west center of power shifts. Like Mount Olympus being above the Empire State Building, I said, and Hades being under Los Angeles. Right. But a whole sea full of monsters? How could you hide something like that? Wouldn't the mortals notice weird things happening, like ships getting eaten and stuff? Of course they notice. They don't understand, but they know something is strange about that part of the ocean. The Sea of Monsters is off the east coast of the U.S. now, just northeast of Florida. The mortals even have a name for it. The Bermuda Triangle? Exactly. I let that sink in. I guess it wasn't stranger than anything else I'd learned since coming to Camp Half-Blood. Okay, so at least we know where to look. It's still a huge area, Percy. Searching for one tiny island in monster-infested waters? Hey, I'm the son of the sea god. This is my home turf. How hard can it be? Annabeth knitted her eyebrows. We'll have to talk to Tantalus to get approval for a quest. He'll say no. Not if we tell him tonight at the campfire in front of everyone. The whole camp will hear. They'll pressure him. He won't be able to refuse. Maybe. A little bit of hope crept into Annabeth's voice. We better get these dishes done. Hand me the lava spray gun, will you? Guys, they said it. They said the Sea of Monsters. Okay. That night at the campfire, Apollo's cabin led the sing-along. They tried to get everyone's spirits up, but it wasn't easy after the afternoon's bird's attack. We all sat around a semicircle of stone steps, singing half-heartedly and watching the bonfire blaze while the Apollo guys strummed their guitars and picked their lyres. We did all the standard camp numbers. Down by the Aegean, I am my own great-great-great-grandpa. This land is Minnow's land. The bonfire was enchanted, so the louder you sang, the higher it rose, changing color and heat with the mood of the crowd. On a good night, I'd seen it 20 feet high, bright purple, and so hot the whole front row's marshmallows burst into flames. Tonight, the fire was only 5 feet high, barely warm, and the flames were the color of lint. Dionysus left early. After suffering through a few songs, he muttered something about how even Pinnacle with Chiron had been more exciting than this. Then he gave Tantalus a distasteful look and headed back towards the big house. When the last song was over, Tantalus said, "Well, that was lovely." He came forward with a toasted marshmallow on a stick and tried to pluck it off real casual-like. But before he could touch it, the marshmallow flew off his stick. Tantalus made a wild grab, but the marshmallow committed suicide, diving into the flames. Tantalus turned back towards us, smiling coldly. "Now then, some announcements about tomorrow's schedule." "Sir?" I said. Tantalus's eyes twitched. "Our kitchen boy has something to say?" Some of the Ares campers snickered, but I wasn't going to let anyone embarrass me into silence. I stood and looked at Annabeth. Thank the gods she stood up with me. I said, "We have an idea to save camp." Dead silence, but I could tell I've gotten everyone's interest because the campfire flared bright yellow. "Indeed," Tantalus said blandly. "Well, if it has anything to do with chariots, the Golden Fleece." I said, "We know where it is." The flames burned orange. Before Tantalus could stop me, I blurted out my dream about Grover and Polyphemus Island. Annabeth stepped in and reminded everyone what the fleece could do. It sounded more convincing coming from her. "The fleece can save camp," she concluded. "I'm certain of it." "Nonsense," said Tantalus. "We don't need saving." Everyone stared at him until Tantalus started looking uncomfortable. Besides," he added quickly, the Sea of Monsters? That's hardly an exact location. You wouldn't even know where to look." "Yes, I would," I said. Annabeth leaned towards me and whispered, "You would?" I nodded, because Annabeth had jogged something in my memory when she reminded me about our taxi ride with the Grey Sisters. At the time, the information they'd given me made no sense, but now... 30, 31, 75, 12, I said. "Okay," Tantalus said. "Thank you for sharing those meaningless numbers." "They're sailing coordinates," I said. "Latitude and longitude. I learned about it in social studies." Even Annabeth looked impressed. 30 degrees, 31 minutes north, 75 degrees, 12 minutes west. He's right. The Grey Sisters gave us those coordinates. They'd be somewhere in the Atlantic off the coast of Florida. The Sea of Monsters. We need a quest. Just wait a minute, Tantalus said, but the campers took up the chant. "We need a quest. We need a quest." The flames rose higher. "This isn't necessary," Tantalus insisted. "We need a quest. We need a quest." "Fine," Tantalus shouted, his eyes blazing with anger. "You brats want me to assign a quest?" "Yes." "Very well," he agreed. "I shall authorize a champion to undertake this perilous journey, to retrieve the Golden Fleece and bring it back to camp, or die trying." My heart filled with excitement. I wasn't going to let Tantalus scare me. This was what I needed to do. I was going to save Grover and the camp. Nothing would stop me. "I will allow our champions to consult the oracle," Tantalus announced, "and choose 2 companions for the journey. And I think the choice of champions is obvious. Tantalus looked at Annabeth and me as if he wanted to flay us alive. The champion should be one who has earned the camp's respect, who has been proven resourceful in the chariot races and courageous in the defense of the camp. You shall lead this quest. Clarice. The fire flickered 1,000 different colors. The Ares cabin started stomping and cheering. Clarice! Clarice! Clarice stood up, looking stunned. Then she swallowed and her chest swelled with pride. I accept the quest. Wait, I shouted. Grover is my friend. The dream came to me. Sit down, yelled one of the Ares campers. You had your chance last summer. Yeah, he just wants to be in the spotlight again, another said. Clarice glared at me. I accept the quest, she repeated. I, Clarice, daughter of Ares, will save the camp. The Ares campers cheered even louder. Annabeth protested and other Athena campers joined in. Everyone else started taking sides, shouting and arguing and throwing marshmallows. I thought it was going to turn into a full-fledged s'mores war until Tantalus shouted, Silence, you brats! His tone stunned even me. Sit down, he ordered, and I will tell you a ghost story. I didn't know what he was up to, but we all moved reluctantly back to our seats. The evil aura radiating from Tantalus was as strong as any monster I'd ever faced. Oh. Once upon a time, there was a mortal king who was beloved of the gods. Tantalus put his hand on his chest, and I got the feeling he was talking about himself. This king, he said, was even allowed to feast on Mount Olympus. But when he tried to take some ambrosia and nectar back to the earth to figure out the recipe, just one little doggy bag, mind you, the gods punished him. They banished him from their halls forever. His own people mocked him. His children scolded him. And oh yes, campers, he had horrible children. Children just like you. He pointed a crooked finger at several people in the audience, including me. Do you know what he did to his ungrateful children? Tantalus asked softly. Do you know how he paid back the gods for their cruel punishment? He invited the Olympians to a feast at his palace just to show that there were no hard feelings. No one noticed that his children were missing. And when he served the gods dinner, my dear campers, can you guess what was in the stew? No one dared answer. The firelight glowed dark blue, reflecting evilly on Tantalus's crooked face. Oh, the gods punished him in the afterlife, Tantalus croaked. They did indeed. But he'd have his moment of satisfaction, hadn't he? His children never again spoke back to him or questioned his authority. And do you know what? Rumor has it that the king's spirit now dwells at this very camp, waiting for a chance to take revenge on the ungrateful, rebellious children. And so, are there any more complaints before we send Clarice off on her quest? Did he? No one ever let Tantalus cook. Did he cook his own kids? Silence. Tantalus nodded at Clarice. The oracle, my dear. Go on. She shifted uncomfortably, like even she didn't want glory at the price of being Tantalus's pet. Sir, go! He snarled. She bowed awkwardly and hurried off towards the big house. What about you, Percy Jackson? Tantalus asked. No comments from our dishwasher? I didn't say anything. I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of punishing me again. Good, Tantalus said. And let me remind everyone, no one leaves this camp without my permission. Anyone who tries, well, if they survive the attempt, they will be expelled forever, but it won't come to that. The Harpies will be enforcing curfew from now on, and they are always hungry. Good night, my dear campers. Sleep well. With a wave of Tantalus's hand, the fire was extinguished, and the campers trailed off towards their cabins in the dark. Literally take a sip of your water every time I say, I don't like Tantalus. I don't like him. Like, if the king in his story is him, the person who supposedly killed his children and served them as stew to the gods, why, in anyone's right mind, would you want them to be around your children? And by they, I mean, like your children, I mean the gods. Like, these are the gods' children. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Oh my gosh. Okay. That's, oh my gosh. Okay, that's so crazy. I couldn't explain things to Tyson. He knew I was sad. He knew I wanted to go on a trip, and Tantalus wouldn't let me. Will you go anyway? He asked. I don't know, I admitted. It would be hard. Very hard. I will help. No, I couldn't ask you to do that, big guy. Too dangerous. Tyson looked down at the pieces of metal he was assembling in his lap. Springs and gears and tiny wires. Beckendorf had given him some tools and spare parts, and now Tyson spent every night tinkering, though I wasn't sure how his huge hands could handle such delicate little pieces. What are you building? I asked. Tyson didn't answer. Instead, he made a whimpering sound in the back of his throat. Annabeth doesn't like cyclopses. You don't want me along? Oh, that's not it, I said half-heartedly. Annabeth likes you. Really. He had tears in the corner of his eye. I remembered that Grover, like all satyrs, could read human emotions. I wondered if Cyclops had the same ability. Tyson folded up his tinkering project in an oilcloth. He lay down in his bunk bed and hugged his bundle like a teddy bear. When he turned towards the wall, I could see the weird scars on his back, like someone had plowed over him with a tractor. I wondered for the millionth time how he'd gotten hurt. Daddy always cared for me, he sniffled. Now, I think he was mean to have a Cyclops boy. I should not have been born. Don't talk that way. Poseidon claimed you, didn't he? So he must care about you. A lot. My voice trailed off as I thought about all those years Tyson had lived on the streets of New York in a cardboard refrigerator box. How could Tyson think that Poseidon had cared for him? What kind of dad let that happen to his kid, even if his kid was a monster? Tyson, camp will be a good home for you. The others will get used to you, I promise. Tyson sighed. I waited for him to say something. Then I realized he was already asleep. I lay back on my bed and tried to close my eyes, but I couldn't. I was afraid I might have another dream about Grover. If the empathy link was real, if something happened to Grover, would I ever wake up? The full moon shone through my windows. The sound of the surf rumbled in the distance. I could smell the warm scent of the strawberry fields and hear the laugh of the dryads as they chased owls through the forest. But something felt wrong about the night. The sickness of Thalia's tree, spreading across the valley. Could Clarice save Half-Blood Hill? I thought the odds were better of me getting a Best Camper award from Tantalus. I got out of bed and pulled on some clothes. I grabbed a beach towel and a 6-pack of Coke from under my bunk. The Cokes were against the rules. No outside snacks or drinks were allowed, but if you talked to the right guy in Hermes' cabin and paid him a few golden drachmas, he could smuggle in almost anything from the nearest convenience store. Sneaking out after curfew was against the rules, too. If I'd got caught, I'd either get in big trouble or be eaten by the harpies. But I wanted to see the ocean. I always felt better there. My thoughts were clearer. I left the cabin and headed for the beach. I spread my blanket near the surf and popped open a Coke. For some reason, sugar and caffeine had always calmed down my hyperactive brain. I tried to decide what to do to save the camp, but nothing came to me. I wish Poseidon would talk to me, give me advice or something. The sky was clear and starry. I was checking out the constellations Annabeth had taught me. Sagittarius, Hercules, Corona Borealis, when I heard someone said, "Beautiful, aren't they?" I almost spewed soda. Standing right next to me was a guy in nylon running shorts and a New York City Marathon t-shirt. He was slim and fit, with salt and pepper hair and a sly smile. He looked kind of familiar, but I couldn't figure out why. My first thought was that he must have been taking a midnight jog down the beach and strayed inside the cabin boulders. That wasn't supposed to happen. Regular mortals couldn't enter the valley, but maybe with the tree's magic weakening, he managed to slip in. But in the middle of the night? There was nothing around except farmland and state preserves. Where would this guy have jogged from? "May I join you?" he asked. "I haven't sat down in ages." Now, I know. A strange guy in the middle of the night. Common sense. I was supposed to run away, yell for help, etc. But the guy acted so calm about the whole thing that I found it hard to be afraid. I said, sure. He smiled. "Your hospitality does you credit. Oh, and Coca-Cola. May I?" He sat at the other end of the blanket, popped a soda and took a drink. Ah, that hits the spot. Peace and quiet at... A cell phone went off in his pocket. The jogger smiled. He pulled out his phone and my eyes got big because it glowed a bluish light. When he extended the antenna, 2 creatures began rising around it. Green snakes, no bigger than earthworms. The jogger didn't seem to notice. He checked his LCD display and cursed. "I've got to take this. Just a sec." Then into the phone. "Hello?" He listened. The mini snakes writhed up and down the antenna next to his ear. "Yeah," the jogger said. "Listen, I know, but I don't care if he is chained to a rock with vultures pecking at his liver. If he doesn't have a tracking number, we can't locate his package." "Mm-hmm. Oh, gift to mankind? Great. You know how many of those we deliver? Oh, never mind. Listen, just referring to Eris in customer service. I gotta go." He hung up. Sorry, the overnight express business is just booming. Now, as I was saying, you have snakes on your phone. What? Oh, they don't bite. Say hello, Georgia Martha. Hello, Georgia Martha, a raspy male voice said inside my head. Don't be sarcastic, said a female voice. Why not? George demanded. I do all the real work. Oh, let's not go into that again. The jogger slipped his phone back into his pocket. Now, where were we? Ah, yes. Peace and quiet. He crossed his ankles and stared up at the stars. Been a long time since I've gotten to relax. Ever since the telegraph. Rush, rush, rush. Do you have a favorite constellation, Percy? I was still kind of wondering about the little green snakes he'd shoved into his jogging shorts, but I said, I like Hercules. Why? Well, because he had rotten luck, even worse than mine. Makes me feel better. The jogger chuckled. Not because he was strong and famous and all that? No. You're an interesting young man. And so, what now? I immediately knew what he was asking. What did I intend to do about the fleece? Before I could answer, Martha the snake's muffled voice came from his pocket. I have to meet her line too. Not now, the jogger said. Tell her to leave a message. She's not going to like that. The last time you put her off, all the flowers in the floral delivery division wilted. Just tell her I'm in a meeting. The jogger rolled his eyes. Sorry again, Percy. You were saying? Who are you exactly? Haven't you guessed by now? A smart boy like you? Show him, Martha pleaded. I haven't been full size for months. Don't listen to her, George said. She just wants to show off. The man took out his phone again. Original form, please. The phone glowed a brilliant blue. It stretched into a 3-foot-long wooden staff with dove wings sprouting out the top. George and Martha, now full-size green snakes, coiled together around the middle. It was a caduceus, the symbol of Cabin 11. My throat tightened. I realized who the jogger reminded me of with his elfish features, the mischievous twinkle in his eyes. You're Luke's father, I said. Hermes. The god pursed his lips. He stuck his caduceus in the sand like an umbrella pole. Luke's father. Normally that's not the first way people introduce me. God of thieves? Yes. God of messengers and travelers, if they wish to be kind. God of thieves works, George says. Oh, don't mind George. Martha flicked her tongue at me. He's just bitter because Hermie likes me best. He does not. Does too. Behave, you two, Hermes warned, or I'll turn you back into a cell phone and set you on vibrate. Now, Percy, you still haven't answered my question. What do you intend to do about the quest? I don't have permission to go. No, indeed. Will that stop you? I want to go. I have to save Grover. Hermes smiled. I knew a boy once. Oh, younger than you by far. A mere baby, really. Here we go again, George said, always talking about himself. Quiet, Martha snapped. Do you want to get set on vibrate? Hermes ignored them. One night, when this boy's mother wasn't watching, he sneaked out of their cave and stole some cattle that belonged to Apollo. Didn't he get blasted to tiny pieces? He asked. No. Actually, everything turned out quite well. To make up for his theft, the boy gave Apollo an instrument he'd invented. A lyre. Apollo was so enchanted with the music, he forgot all about being angry. So, what's the moral? The moral? Hermes asked. Goodness, you act like it's a fable. It's a true story. Does truth have a moral? How about this? Stealing is not always bad? I don't think my mom would like that moral. Rats are delicious, suggested George. What does that have to do with the story? Martha demanded. Nothing, George said, but I'm hungry. I've got it, Hermes said. Young people don't always do what they're told, but if they can pull it off and do something wonderful, sometimes they escape punishment. How's that? You're saying I should go anyways, I said, even without permission. Hermes' eyes twinkled. Martha, may I have the first package, please? Martha opened her mouth, and kept opening it until it was as wide as my arm. She belched out a stainless steel canister, an old-fashioned lunchbox thermos with a black plastic top. The sides of the thermos were enameled with red and yellow ancient Greek scenes, a hero killing a lion, a hero lifting up Cerberus, the three-headed dog. That's Hercules, I said, but how... Never question a gift, Hermes chided. This is a collector's item from Hercules Bust Heads. First season. Hercules Busts Head. Great show, Hermes sighed. Back before Hephaestus TV was all reality programming. Of course, the thermos would be worth much more if I had the whole lunchbox, or if it hadn't been in Martha's mouth, George added. I'll get you for that. Martha began chasing him around the caduceus. Wait a minute. I said. This is a gift? One of two, Hermes said. Go on, pick it up. I almost dropped it because it was freezing cold on one side and burning hot on the other. The weird thing was, when I turned the thermos, the side facing the ocean north was always the cold side. It's a compass, I said. Hermes looked surprised. Very clever. I never thought of that. But its intended use is a little bit more dramatic. Uncap it, and you will release the winds from the four corners of the earth to speed you on your way. Not now. And please, when the time comes, only unscrew the lid a tiny bit. The winds are a bit like me, always restless. Should all four escape at once? But I'm sure you'll be careful. And now my second gift? George? She's touching me, George complained as he and Martha slithered around the pole. She's always touching you, Hermes said. You're intertwined, and if you don't stop that, you'll get knotted again. The snake stopped rustling. George unhinged his jaw and coughed up a little plastic bottle filled with chewable vitamins. You're kidding, I said. Are those minotaur-shaped? Hermes picked up the bottle and rattled it. The lemon ones, yes. The grape ones are furies, I think. Or are they hydras? At any rate, these are potent. Don't take one unless you really, really need it. How will I know if I really, really need it? You'll know, believe me. 9 essential vitamins, minerals, amino acids, everything you'll need to feel yourself again. He tossed me the bottle. Thanks, I said, but Lord Hermes, why are you helping me? He gave me a melancholy smile. Perhaps because I hope you can save many people on this quest, Percy, not just your friend Grover. I stared at him. You don't mean Luke? Hermes didn't answer. Look, I said, Lord Hermes, thanks and everything, but you might as well take back your gifts. Luke can't be saved, even if I could find him. He told me he wanted to tear down Olympus stone by stone. He betrayed everyone he knew. He hates you, especially. Hermes gazed up at the stars. My dear young cousin, if there's one thing I've learned over the eons, it's that you can't give up on your family, no matter how tempting they make it. It doesn't matter if they hate you or embarrass you, or simply don't appreciate your genius for inventing the internet. You invented the internet? It was my idea, Martha said. Rats are delicious, George said. It was my idea, Hermes said. I meant the internet, not the rats. But that's not the point. Percy, do you understand what I'm saying about family? I'm not sure. You will someday. Hermes got up and brushed the sand off his legs. In the meantime, I must be going. You have 60 calls to return, Martha said, and 1,038 emails, George added, not counting the offers for online discount ambrosia. And you, Percy, Hermes said, have a shorter deadline than you realize to complete your quest. Your friends should be coming right about now. I hear Annabeth's voice calling my name from the sand dunes. Tyson, too, was shouting a little bit farther away. I hope I have packed well for you, Hermes said. I do have some experience with travel. He snapped his fingers, and 3 yellow duffel bags appeared at my feet. Waterproof, of course. If you ask nicely, your father should be able to help you reach the ship. Ship? Hermes pointed. Sure enough, a big cruise ship was cutting across Long Island Sound, its white and gold lights glowing against the dark waters. Wait, I said. I don't understand any of this. I haven't even agreed to go. I'd make your mind up in the next 5 minutes if I were you, Hermes advised. That's when the harpies will come to eat you. Now, good night, cousin, and dare I say it, may the gods go with you. He opened his hands and the caduceus flew into it. Good luck, Martha told me. Bring me back a rat, George said. The caduceus changed it to a cell phone, and Hermes slipped it into his pocket. He jogged off down the beach. 20 paces away, he shimmered and vanished, leaving me alone with a thermos, a bottle of chewable vitamins, and 5 minutes to make an impossible decision. It makes me so sad that Hermes wants Percy to try to save Luke, knowing how Luke feels about him. Why does that break my heart? Why does that break my heart? Oh no. Also, Hermes coming in clutch, dude. Giving them all this stuff, unprovoked. Also, I do understand Percy being like, why are you doing this? But I feel like Hermes being like, I'm hoping you can save more people other than Grover. That kind of almost insinuates that there are other people on this quest, either him knowing Clarice is going, or knowing that there are other demigods who have turned, possibly. that he wants to save, you know? It's interesting. I do love Hermes koala. The urge I was finding, and I wasn't going to because I wouldn't be able to hold it for the whole time. But in the Percy Jackson show, I don't know if this is a spoiler. Hermes is Lin-Manuel Miranda. I wish I could do a Lin-Manuel Miranda impression good enough to read Hermes' lines as him. But I think that would get so old so fast. What? Anyways, oh my gosh. Wow. Percy, they keep giving him like the biggest decisions to make. And oh my gosh, dude. But yeah, why did Hermes like give them like a stacked like arsenal of things, you know? Like that's so crazy. I know, that was so cute that Hermes was like, "May the gods go with you," like as one of the gods himself, you know? Like that's kind of crazy. He's like, "This mouse good tool will help us later." No, literally. Like the vitamins, I'm scared for what they're going to need them for. The way he was like, "You'll know when you need it." I feel like that's going to be like an absolute like life or death situation. But there's 9. There's 9 of these vitamins. I'm scared that we're going to lose some of these like in an accident or something, you know, like someone's going to like spill them or something and then we're only going to have like 1 or 2 left. And that we're like, oh my gosh. Like that's so scary to me. Like there's too many of them for such short of an adventure or like a book. Like I'm stressed out. Like I don't remember. Or like, is Tyson gonna eat them as like a snack normally, and then Percy's gonna be like, "No, no, 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 no! Stop eating that, Tyson." Oh my gosh. Yes, 9, like as in like 9 cat lives. Like I don't know. That's so weird, dude. Ugh. I guess we'll figure out how it's going. Chapter 8. We board the Princess Andromeda. I was staring at the waves when Annabeth and Tyson found me. "What's going on?" Annabeth asked. "I heard you calling for help." "Me too," Tyson said. "Heard you yell, 'Bad things are attacking.'" "I didn't call you guys," I said. "I'm fine." "But then who—" Annabeth noticed the 3 yellow duffel bags, then the thermos, and the bottle of vitamins I was holding. "What?" "Just listen," I said. "We don't have much time." I told them about my conversation with Hermes. By the time I was finished, I could hear screeching in the distance, patrol harpies picking up our scent. "Percy," Annabeth said, "we have to do the quest. We'll get expelled, you know? Trust me, I'm an expert at getting expelled." "So, if we fail, there won't be any camp to come back to." "Yeah, but you promised, Chiron. I promised I'd keep you from danger. I can only do that by coming with you." "Tyson can stay behind and tell them I want to go," Tyson said. "No!" Annabeth's voice sounded close to panic. I mean, Percy, come on. You know that's impossible." I wondered again why she had such a grudge against Cyclops. There was something she wasn't telling me. She and Tyson both looked at me, waiting for an answer. Meanwhile, the cruise ship was getting farther and farther away. The thing was, part of me didn't want Tyson along. I'd spent the last 3 days in close quarters with the guy, getting razzed by the other campers and embarrassed a million times a day, constantly reminded that I was related to him. I needed some space. Plus, I didn't know how much help he'd be, or how I'd keep him safe. Sure, he was strong, but Tyson was a little kid in Cyclops terms, maybe 7 or 8 years old mentally. I could see him freaking out and starting to cry while we were trying to sneak past a monster or something. He'd get us all killed. On the other hand, the sound of the harpies was getting closer. "We can't leave him," I decided. "Tantalus will punish him for us being gone." "Percy," Annabeth said, trying to keep her cool, We're going to Polyphemus's island." "Polyphemus is a S-I-K... C-Y-K..." She stamped her foot in frustration. As smart as she was, Annabeth was dyslexic too. We could have been there all night while she tried to spell Cyclops. "You know what I mean." "Tyson can go," I insisted, "if he wants to." Tyson clapped his hands. "Want to?" Annabeth gave me the evil eye, but I guess she could tell I wasn't going to change my mind. Or maybe she just knew we didn't have time to argue. All right, she said. How do we get to that ship? Hermie said my father would help. Well then, Seaweed Brain, what are you waiting for? I'd always had a hard time calling on my father, or praying, or whatever you want to call it, but I stepped into the waves. Dad? I called, how's it going? Percy, Annabeth whispered, we're in a hurry. We need your help, I called a little louder. We need to get to that ship, like, before we get eaten and stuff. So, at first nothing happened. Waves crashed against the shore like normal. The harpies sounded like they were right behind the sand dunes. Then, about 100 yards out to sea, three white lines appeared on the surface. They moved fast towards the shore, their claws ripping through the ocean. As they neared the beach, the surf burst apart, and the heads of 3 white stallions reared out of the waves. Tyson caught his breath. Fish ponies! He was right. As the creatures pulled themselves onto the sand, I saw that they were only horses in the front. Their back halves were silvery fish bodies, with glistening scales and rainbow tail fins. Hippocampi! Annabeth said. They're beautiful! The nearest one whinnied in appreciation and nuzzled Annabeth. We'll admire them later, I said. Come on. There! A voice screeched behind us. Bad children out of cabin. Snack time for lucky harpies. 5 of them were fluttering over the top of the dunes. Plump little hags with pinched faces and talons and feathery wings too small for their bodies. They reminded me of miniature cafeteria ladies who'd been crossbred with dodo birds. They weren't very fast, thank the gods, but they were vicious if they caught you. Tyson, I said, grab a duffel bag. He was still staring at the hippocampi with his mouth hanging open. Tyson! Huh? Come on! With Annabeth's help, I got him moving. We gathered the bags and mounted our steeds. Poseidon must have known Tyson was one of the passengers, because one hippocampus was much larger than the other 2, just right for carrying a cyclops. Giddy up, I said. My hippocampus turned and plunged into the waves. Annabeth and Tyson's followed right behind. The harpies cursed at us, wailing for their snacks to come back. But the hippocampi raced over the water at the speed of jet skis. The harpies fell behind, and soon the shore of Camp Half-Blood was nothing but a dark smudge. I'd wonder if I'd ever see the place again, but right then I had other problems. The cruise ship was now looming in front of us, a ride towards Florida and the Sea of Monsters. Riding the hippocampus was even easier than riding a Pegasus. We zipped along with the wind in our faces, speeding through the waves so smooth and steadily I hardly needed to hold on at all. As we got closer to the cruise ship, I realized just how huge it was. I felt as though I were looking up at a building in Manhattan. The white hull was at least 10 stories tall, topped with another dozen levels of decks with brightly lit balconies and portholes. The ship's name was painted just above the bow line in black letters lit with a spotlight. It took me a few seconds to decipher it. Princess Andromeda. Attached to the bow was a huge masthead. A 3-story tall woman wearing a white Greek chiton, sculpted to look as if she were chained to the front of the ship. She was young and beautiful, with flowing black hair, but her expression was one of absolute terror. Why anyone would want a screaming princess in the front of their vacation ship, I had no idea. I remembered the myth of Andromeda, and how she had been chained to a rock by her own parents as a sacrifice to a sea monster. Maybe she'd gotten too many F's on her report card or something. Anyways, my namesake, Perseus, had saved her just in time, and turned the sea monsters to stone using the head of Medusa. That Perseus always won. That's why my mom named me after him, even though he was a son of Zeus and I was a son of Poseidon. The original Perseus was one of the only heroes in the Greek myths who got a happy ending. The others died, betrayed, mauled, mutilated, poisoned, or cursed by the gods. My mom hoped I would inherit Poseidon's luck. Judging by how my life was going so far, I wasn't real optimistic. How do we get aboard? Annabeth shouted over the noise of the waves, but the hippocampi seemed to know what we needed. They skimmed across the starboard side of the ship, riding easily through its huge wake, and pulled up next to a service ladder riveted into the side of the hull. You first, I told Annabeth. She slung her duffel bag over her shoulder and grabbed the bottom rung. When she hoisted herself up onto the ladder, her hippocampus whinnied a farewell and dove underwater. Annabeth began to climb. I let her get a few rungs up, then followed her. Finally, it was just Tyson in the water. His hippocampus was treating him to 360 aerials and backwards ollies, and Tyson was laughing so hysterically, the sound echoed up the side of the ship. Tyson, shh, I said. Come on, big guy. Can't we take Rainbow? He asked, his smile fading. I stared at him. Rainbow? The hippocampus whinnied as if he liked his new name. We have to go, I said. Rainbow, well, he can't climb ladders. Tyson sniffled. He buried his head in the hippocampus's mane. I will miss you, Rainbow. The hippocampus made a neighing sound I could have sworn was crying. Maybe we'll see him again sometime, I suggested. Oh, please, Tyson said, perking up immediately. Tomorrow. I didn't make any promises, but I finally convinced Tyson to say his farewells and grab hold of the ladder. With the final sad whinny, Rainbow the hippocampus did a backflip and dove into the sea. Oh, I love Tyson so much. The ladder led to a maintenance deck stacked with yellow lifeboats. There was a set of locked double doors, which Annabeth managed to pry open with her knife, and fair amounts of cursing in ancient Greek. I figured we'd have to sneak around, being stowaways and all, but after checking a few corridors and peering over a balcony into a huge central promenade lined with closed shops, I began to realize there was no one to hide from. I mean, sure, it was the middle of the night, but we walked half the length of the boat and met no one. We passed 40 or 50 cabin doors and heard no sound behind any of them. It's a ghost ship, I murmured. No, Tyson said, fiddling with the strap of his duffel bag. Bad smell. Annabeth frowned. I don't smell anything. Cyclops are like satyrs, I said. They can smell monsters. Isn't that right, Tyson? He nodded nervously. Now that we were away from Camp Half-Blood, the mist had distorted his face again. Unless I concentrated very hard, it seemed that he had 2 eyes instead of 1. Okay, Annabeth said. So what exactly do you smell? Something bad, Tyson answered. Great, Annabeth grumbled. That clears it up. We came outside on the swimming pool level. There were rows of empty deck chairs and a bar closed off with a chain curtain. The water in the pool glowed eerily, sloshing back and forth with the motion of the ship. Above us fore and aft were more levels. A climbing wall, a putt-putt golf course, a revolving restaurant, but no sign of life. And yet, I sensed something familiar. Something dangerous. I had the feeling that if I weren't so tired and burned out on adrenaline from our long night, I might have been able to put a name to what was wrong. We need a hiding place, I said. Somewhere safe to sleep. Sleep, Annabeth agreed wearily. We explored a few more corridors until we found an empty suite on the 9th level. The door was open, which struck me as weird. There was a basket of chocolate goodies on the table, an iced-down bottle of sparkling cider on the nightstand, and a mint on the pillow with the handwritten note that said, "Enjoy your cruise." We opened our duffel bags for the first time and found that Hermes had really thought of everything. Extra clothes, toiletries, camp rations, a Ziploc bag full of cash, a leather pouch full of golden drachmas. He'd even managed to pack Tyson's oilcloths with his tools and metal bits, and Annabeth's caps of incivility, which made them both feel a lot better. "I'll be next door," Annabeth said. "You guys don't drink or eat anything." "You think this place is enchanted?" She frowned. "I don't know. Something isn't right. Just be careful." We locked our doors. Tyson crashed on the couch. He tinkered for a few minutes on his metalworking project, which he still wouldn't show me, but soon enough he was yawning. He wrapped up his oilcloth and passed out. I lay on the bed and stared out the porthole. I thought I heard voices out in the hallway, like whispering. I knew that couldn't be. We'd walked all over the ship and had seen nobody, but the voices kept me awake. They reminded me of my trip to the underworld, the way the spirits of the dead sounded as they drifted past. Finally, my weariness got the best of me. I fell asleep, and had my worst dream yet. I was standing in a cavern at the edge of an enormous pit. I knew the place too well. The entrance to Tartarus. And I recognized the cold laugh that echoed from the darkness below. "If it isn't the young hero," the voice was like a knife blade scraping across stone. "On his way to another great victory." I wanted to shout at Kronos to leave me alone. I wanted to draw Riptide and strike him down, but I couldn't move. Even if I could, how could I kill something that had already been destroyed, chopped to pieces and cast into eternal darkness? "Don't let me stop you," the Titan said. "Perhaps this time, when you fail, you'll wonder if it's worthwhile slaving for the gods. How exactly has your father shown his appreciation lately?" His laughter filled the cavern, and suddenly the scene changed. It was a different cave. Grover's bedroom prison in the Cyclops' lair. Grover was sitting at the loom in his soiled wedding dress, madly unraveling the threads of the unfinished bridal train. "Honey pie!" the monster shouted from behind the boulder. Grover yelped and began weaving the threads back together. The room shook as the boulder was pushed aside. Looming in the doorway was a Cyclops so huge he made Tyson look vertically challenged. He had jagged yellow teeth and gnarled hands as big as my whole body. He wore a faded purple t-shirt that said World Sheep Expo 2001. He must have been at least 15 feet tall, but the most startling thing was his enormous milky eye, scarred and webbed with cataracts. If he wasn't completely blind, he had to be pretty darn close. "What are you doing?" the monster demanded. "Nothing," Grover said in his falsetto voice. "Just weaving my bridal train, as you can see." The Cyclops stuck one hand into the room and groped around until he found the loom. He pawed at the cloth. "It hasn't gotten any longer." "Oh, yes, it has, dearest. See, I've added at least an inch." Too many delays, the monster bellowed. Then he sniffed the air. You smell good, like goats. Oh, Grover forced a weak giggle. Do you like it? It's eau de chèvre. I wore it just for you. The Cyclops bared his pointed teeth. Good enough to eat. Oh, you're such a flirt. No more delays. But, dear, I'm not done. Tomorrow. No, 10 more days. 5. Oh, well, 7 then, if you insist. 7. That is less than 5, right? Certainly. Oh, yes. The monster grumbled, still not happy with his deal, but he left Grover to his weaving and rolled the boulder back into place. Grover closed his eyes and took a shaky breath, trying to calm his nerves. Hurry, Percy, he muttered. Please, please, please. I woke to a ship's whistle and a voice on the intercom. Some guy with an Australian accent who sounded way too happy. Also, I will not be doing an Australian accent. I do not want to offend our friends in Australia. Okay. Good morning, passengers. We will be at sea all day today. Excellent weather for the poolside mambo party. Don't forget, $1 million bingo in the Kraken Lounge at 1 o'clock. And for our special guests, disemboweling practice on the promenade. I sat up in bed. What did he say? Tyson groaned, still half asleep. He was lying face down on the couch, his feet so far over the edge they were in the bathroom. The happy man said, bowling practice? I hoped he was right, but then there was an urgent knock at the suite's interior door. Annabeth stuck her head in, her blonde hair in a rat's nest. Disemboweling practice? Once we were all dressed, we ventured out into the ship and were surprised to see other people. A dozen senior citizens were heading to breakfast. A dad was taking his kids to the pool for a morning swim. Crew members in crisp white uniforms strolled the deck, tipping their hats to the passengers. Nobody asked who we were. No one paid us much attention, but something was wrong. As a family of swimmers passed us, the dad told his kids, We're on a cruise. We are having fun. Yes, his 3 kids said in unison, their expressions blank. We are having a blast. We will swim in that pool. They wandered off. Good morning, a crew member told us, his eyes glazed. We are all enjoying ourselves above the Princess Andromeda. Have a nice day. He drifted away. Percy, this is weird, Annabeth whispered. They're all in some kind of trance. Then we passed a cafeteria and saw our first monster. It was a hellhound, a black mastiff with its front paws up on the buffet line and its muzzle buried in the scrambled eggs. It must have been young, because it was small compared to most, no bigger than a grizzly bear. Still, my blood turned cold. I'd almost gotten killed by one of those before. The weird thing was, a middle-aged couple was standing in the buffet line right behind the devil dog, patiently waiting their turn for the eggs. They didn't seem to notice anything out of the ordinary. Not hungry anymore, Tyson murmured. Before Annabeth and I could reply, a reptilian voice came down from the corridor. 6 more joined yesterday. Annabeth gestured frantically towards the nearest hiding place, the women's room, and all 3 of us ducked inside. I was so freaked out it didn't even occur to me to be embarrassed. Something, or more like 2 somethings, slithered past the bathroom door, making sounds like sandpaper against the carpet. Yes, a second reptilian voice said. He draws them. Soon we will be strong. The thing slithered into the cafeteria with a cold hissing that might have been snake laughter. Annabeth looked at me. We have to get out of here. You think I want to be in the girls' restroom? I mean the ship, Percy. We have to get off the ship. Smells bad, Tyson agreed. And dog eats all the eggs. Annabeth is right. We must leave the restroom and ship. I shuddered. If Annabeth and Tyson were actually agreeing about something, I figured I'd better listen. Then I heard another voice outside, one that chilled me worse than any monster's. Only a matter of time. Don't push me, Agrias. It was Luke, beyond a doubt. I could never forget his voice. I'm not pushing you, another guy growled. His voice was deeper and even angrier than Luke's. I'm just saying, if this gamble doesn't pay off, it'll pay off, Luke snapped. They'll take the bait. Now come on, we gotta get to the suite and check on the casket. Casket? Their voices receded down the corridor. Tyson whimpered. Leave now? Annabeth and I exchanged looks and came to a silent agreement. We can't, I told Tyson. We have to figure out what Luke is up to, Annabeth agreed. And if possible, we're going to beat him up, bind him in chains, and drag him to Mount Olympus. Not us finding Luke immediately. I want to know, why were they so close to Camp Half-Blood? Did they not think they would be seen? Because we have curfew now, right? So maybe But how would they know about curfew? What are the odds that someone didn't see them? Why did Hermes want them to be on that same ship with him? This is too suspicious. I don't like. Chapter 9. I have the worst family reunion ever. Annabeth volunteered to go alone since she had the cap of invisibility, but I convinced her it was too dangerous. Either we all went together or nobody went. Nobody, Tyson voted. Please? But in the end, he came along, nervously chewing on his huge fingernails. We stopped at our cabin long enough to gather our stuff. We figured whatever happened, we would not be staying another night aboard the zombie cruise ship, even if they did have $1 million bingo. I made sure Riptide was in my pocket and the vitamins and thermos from Hermes were at the top of my bag. I didn't want Tyson to carry everything, but he insisted, and Annabeth told me not to worry about it. Tyson could carry 3 full duffel bags over his shoulder as easily as I could carry a backpack. We sneaked through the corridors, following the ship's "You Are Here" signs towards the suite. Annabeth scouted ahead invisibly. We hid whenever someone passed by, but most of the people we saw were just glassy-eyed zombie passengers. When we came up the stairs to deck 13, where the suite was supposed to be, Annabeth hissed, "Hide!" and shoved us into a supply closet. I heard a couple of guys coming down the hall. "You see that Ethiopian dragon in the cargo hold?" one of them said. The other laughed. "Yeah, it was awesome." Annabeth was still invisible, but she squeezed my arm hard. I got a feeling I should know that second guy's voice. "I hear they got 2 more coming," the familiar voice said. "They keep arriving at this rate. Oh man, no contest." The voices faded down the corridor. "That was Chris Rodriguez." Annabeth took off her cap and turned visible. "You remember from Cabin 11? I sort of recalled Chris from the summer before. He was one of those undetermined campers who got stuck in the Hermes cabin because his Olympian dad or mom never claimed him. Now that I thought about it, I realized I hadn't seen Chris at camp this summer. What's another half-blood doing here?" Annabeth shook her head, clearly troubled. We kept going down the corridor. I didn't need maps anymore to know I was getting close to Luke. I sensed something cold and unpleasant, the presence of evil. "Percy," Annabeth stopped suddenly. "Look." She stood in front of a glass wall looking down the multi-story canyon that ran through the middle of the ship. At the bottom was the promenade, a mall full of shops, but that's not what caught Annabeth's attention. A group of monsters had assembled in the front of the candy store. A dozen Lastrygonian giants, like the ones who'd attacked me with dodgeballs, 2 hellhounds, and a few even stranger creatures, humanoid females with twin serpent tails instead of legs. "Scythian Drachnae," Annabeth whispered. "Dragon women." The monsters made a semicircle around a young guy in Greek armor who was hacking on a straw dummy. A lump formed in my throat when I realized the dummy was wearing an orange Camp Half-Blood shirt. As we watched, the guy in armor stabbed the dummy through its belly and ripped upwards. Straw flew everywhere. The monsters cheered and howled. Annabeth stepped away from the window. Her face was ashen. "Come on," I told her, trying to sound braver than I felt. "The sooner we find Luke, the better." At the end of the hallway were double oak doors that looked like they must lead to somewhere important. When we were 30 feet away, Tyson stopped. Voices inside. "You can hear that far?" I asked. Tyson closed his eyes like he was concentrating hard. Then his voice changed, becoming a husky approximation of Luke's. "The prophecy ourselves. The fools won't know which way to turn." Before I could react, Tyson's voice changed again, becoming deeper and gruffer, like the other guy we'd heard talking to Luke outside the cafeteria. "You really think the old horseman is gone for good?" Tyson laughed Luke's laugh. "They can't trust him, not with the skeletons in his closet. The poisoning of the tree was the final straw." Annabeth shivered. "Stop that, Tyson. How do you do that? It's creepy." Tyson opened his eye and looked puzzled. "Just listening." "Keep going," I said. "What else are they saying?" Tyson closed his eye again. He hissed in the gruff man's voice. "Quiet!" Then Luke's voice saying, "Are you sure?" "Yes," Tyson said in the gruff voice. "Right outside." Too late, I realized what was happening. I just had time to say "run" when the doors of the stateroom burst open and there was Luke, flanked by 2 hairy giants armed with javelins, their bronze tips aimed right at our chests. "Well," Luke said with a crooked smile, "if it isn't my 2 favorite cousins. Come right in." No! Oh my gosh. Okay. The stateroom was beautiful, and it was horrible. The beautiful part. Huge windows curved along the back wall, looking out over the stern of the ship. Green sea and blue sky stretched all the way to the horizon. A Persian rug covered the floor. 2 plush sofas occupied the middle of the room, with a canopied bed in one corner and a mahogany dining table in the other. The table was loaded with food, pizza boxes, bottles of soda, and a stack of roast beef sandwiches on a silver platter. The horrible part. On a velvet dais at the back of the room lay a 10-foot-long golden casket, our sarcophagus, engraved with ancient Greek scenes of cities in flames and heroes dying grisly deaths. Despite the sunlight streaming through the window, the casket made the whole room feel cold. "Well," Luke said, spreading his arms proudly. "A little nicer than Cabin 11, huh?" He changed since the last summer. Instead of Bermuda shorts and a t-shirt, he wore a button-down shirt, khaki pants, and leather loafers. His sandy hair, which used to be so unruly, was now clipped short. He looked like an evil male model, showing off what the fashionable college villain was wearing to Harvard this year. He still had the scar under his eye, a jagged white line from his battle with the dragon, and propped against the sofa was his magical sword, Backbiter, glinting strangely with its half-steel, half-celestial bronze blade that could kill both mortals and monsters. "Sit," he told us. He waved his hand and 3 dining chairs scooted themselves into the center of the room. None of us sat. Luke's large friends were still pointing their javelins at us. They looked like twins, but they weren't human. They stood about 8 feet tall, for one thing, and only wore blue jeans, probably because their enormous chests were already shag-carpeted with thick brown fur. They had claws for fingernails, feet like paws. Their noses were snout-like, and their teeth were all pointed canines. "Where are my manners?" Luke said smoothly. "These are my assistants, Agrius and Aureus. Perhaps you've heard of them." I said nothing. Despite the javelins pointed at me, it wasn't the bear twins who scared me. I imagined meeting Luke again many times since he tried to kill me last summer. I pictured myself boldly standing up to him, challenging him to a duel. But now that we were face to face, I could barely stop my hands from shaking. "You don't know Agrius and Aureus' story?" Luke asked. "Their mother, well, it's sad, really. Aphrodite ordered the young woman to fall in love. She refused and ran to Artemis for help. Artemis let her become one of her maiden huntresses, but Aphrodite got her revenge. She bewitched the young woman into falling in love with a bear. When Artemis found out, she abandoned the girl in disgust. Typical of the gods, wouldn't you say? They fight with one another, and poor humans got caught in the middle. The girl's twin sons here, Agrius and Aureus, have no love for Olympus. They like half-bloods well enough. Though, for lunch," Agrius growled. His gruff voice was the one I'd heard talking with Luke earlier. His brother Aureus laughed, licking his fur-lined lips. He kept laughing like he was having an asthmatic fit until Luke and Agrius both stared at him. "Shut up, you idiot," Agrius growled. "Go punish yourself." Aureus whimpered. He trudged over to a corner of the room, slumped onto a stool, and banged his forehead against the dining room table, making the silver plates rattle. Luke acted like this was perfectly normal behavior. He made himself comfortable on the sofa and propped his feet up on the coffee table. "Well, Percy, we'll let you survive another year. I hope you appreciated it. How's your mom? How's school?" "You poisoned Thalia's tree." Luke sighed. "Right to the point, eh? Okay, sure, I poisoned the tree. So what?" "How could you?" Annabeth sounded so angry I thought she'd explode. "Thalia saved your life. Our lives. How could you dishonor her?" "I didn't dishonor her," Luke snapped. "The gods dishonored her, Annabeth. If Thalia were alive, she'd be on my side. Liar! If you knew what was coming, you'd understand. I understand you'd want to destroy the camp," she yelled. "You're a monster." Luke shook his head. "The gods have blinded you. Can't you imagine a world without them, Annabeth? What good is that ancient history you study? 3,000 years of baggage. The West is rotten to the core. It has to be destroyed. Join me. We can start the world anew. We could use your intelligence, Annabeth, because you have none of your own." His eyes narrowed. "I know you, Annabeth. You deserve better than tagging along on some hopeless quest to save the camp. Half-Blood Hill will be overrun by monsters within the month. The heroes who survive will have no choice but to join us or be hunted to extinction. You really want to be on a losing team with company like this?" Luke pointed at Tyson. "Hey," I said. "Traveling with the Cyclops," Luke chided. "Talk about dishonoring Thalia's memory. I'm surprised at you, Annabeth. You of all people—" "Stop it!" she shouted. I didn't know what Luke was talking about, but Annabeth buried her head in her hands like she was about to cry. "Leave her alone," I said, "and leave Tyson out of this." Luke laughed. "Oh yeah, I heard. Your father claimed him." I must have looked surprised because Luke smiled. "Yes, Percy, I know all about that, and about your plan to find the fleece. What were those coordinates again? 30, 31, 75, 12? You see, I still have friends at camp who keep me posted. Spies, you mean? He shrugged. How many insults from your father can you stand, Percy? You think he's grateful to you? You think Poseidon cares for you any more than he cares for this monster? Tyson clenched his fists and made a rumbling sound down his throat. Luke just chuckled. The gods are so using you, Percy. Do you have any idea what's in store for you if you reach your 16th birthday? Has Chiron even told you the prophecy? I wanted to get in Luke's face and tell him off, but as usual, he knew just how to throw me off balance. 16th birthday? I mean, I knew Chiron had received a prophecy from the oracle many years ago. I knew part of it was about me. But if I reached my 16th birthday, I didn't like the sound of that. I know what I need to know, I managed, like who my enemies are. Then you're a fool. Tyson smashed the nearest dining chair into splinters. Percy is not a fool. Before I could stop him, he charged Luke. His fists came down towards Luke's head, a double overhead blow that would have knocked a hole in titanium, but the Bear twins intercepted. They each caught one of Tyson's arm and stopped him cold. They pushed him back, and Tyson stumbled. He fell to the carpet so hard the deck shook. Too bad, Cyclops, Luke said. Looks like my grizzly friends together are more than matched for your strength. Maybe I should let them— Luke, I cut in. Listen to me. Your father sent us. His face turned the color of pepperoni. Don't even mention him. He told us to take this boat. I thought it was just for a ride, but he sent us here to find you. He told me he won't give up on you, no matter how angry you are. Angry? Luke roared. Give up on me? He abandoned me, Percy. I want Olympus destroyed. Every throne crushed to rubble. You tell Hermes it's going to happen, too. Each time a half-blood joins us, the Olympians grow weaker and we grow stronger. He grows stronger. Luke pointed to the golden sarcophagus. The box creeped me out, but I was determined not to show it. So? I demanded. What's so special? Then it hit me. What might be in the sarcophagus. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 20 degrees. Whoa, you don't mean he is reforming, Luke said. Little by little, we're calling his life force out of the pit. With each recruit who pledges our cause, another small piece appears. That's disgusting, Annabeth said. Luke sneered at her. Your mother was born from Zeus's split skull, Annabeth. I wouldn't talk. Soon there will be enough of the Titan Lord so that we can make him whole again. We will piece together a new body for him, a work worthy of the forges of Hephaestus. You're insane, Annabeth said. Join us, and you will be rewarded. We have powerful friends, sponsors rich enough to buy this cruise ship, and much more. Percy, your mother would never have to work again. You can buy her a mansion. You can have power, fame, whatever you want. Annabeth, you can realize your dream of becoming an architect. You can build a monument to last 1,000 years. A temple to the lords of the new age. Go to Tartarus, she said. Luke sighed. A shame. He picked up something that looked like a TV remote and pressed a red button. Within seconds, the door of the stateroom opened and 2 uniformed crew members came in, armed with nightsticks. They had the same glassy-eyed look as the other mortals I'd seen, but I had a feeling this wouldn't make them any less dangerous in a fight. Ah, good. Security, Luke said. I'm afraid we have some stowaways. Yes, sir, they said dreamily. Luke turned to Aureus. It's time to feed the Ethiopian draken. Take these fools below and show them how it's done. Aureus grinned stupidly. He 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 he. Let me go too, Argius grumbled. My brother is worthless. That Cyclops is no threat, Luke said. He glanced back at the golden casket as if something were troubling him. Agrias, stay here. We have important matters to discuss. But, Aureus, don't fail me. Stay in the hold to make sure the draken is properly fed. Aureus prodded us with his javelin and herded us out of the stateroom, followed by 2 human security guards. As I walked on the corridor with Aureus's javelin poking me in the back, I thought about what Luke had said, that the Bear twins together were a match for Tyson's strength, but maybe separately. We exited the corridors amidship and walked across an open deck lined with lifeboats. I knew the ship well enough to realize that this would be our last look at sunlight. Once we got to the other side, we'd take the elevator down into the hold, and that would be it. I looked at Tyson and said, Now! Thank the gods he understood. He turned and smacked Aureus 30 feet backwards into the swimming pool, right into the middle of a zombie tourist family. Ah! The kids yelled in unison. We are not having a blast in the pool! One of the security guards drew his nightstick, but Annabeth knocked the wind out of him with a well-placed kick. The other guard ran for the nearest alarm box. "Stop him!" Annabeth yelled, but it was too late. Just before I banged him on the head with the desk chair, he hit the alarm. Red lights flashed. Sirens wailed. "Lifeboat!" I yelled. We ran for the nearest one. By the time we got the cover off, monsters and more security men were swarming the deck, pushing aside tourists and waiters with trays of tropical drinks. A guy in Greek armor drew his sword and charged, but slipped in a puddle of pina colada. Lastragonian archers assembled on the deck above us, notching arrows in their enormous bows. "How do you launch this thing?" screamed Annabeth. A hellhound leaped at me, but Tyson slammed it with the fire extinguisher. "Get in!" I yelled. I uncapped Riptide and slashed the first volley of arrows out of the air. Any second we would be overwhelmed. The lifeboat was hanging over the side of the ship, high above the water. Annabeth and Tyson were having no luck with the release pulley. I jumped in beside them. "Hold on!" I yell, and I cut the ropes. A shower of arrow whistled over our heads as we free fell towards the ocean. That's chapter 9. I am so concerned because, like, you're telling me, so Luke is alive, which makes sense. We didn't see anything happen to him, but, like, you're telling me that he's making a monster of half-bloods and monsters, and you're telling me there are actively people at camp who are helping him? Like, oh, that's so crazy. Like, I do understand that he's angry at the gods, you know, but like I don't super blame him, because obviously he's angry at the gods and he's like in like a weak point in his life. Like, I'm so curious when what's his name? Jeez. When Kronos talked to him, right? 'Cause that's what we're assuming. The Titan Lord, right? That's kind of confirmation that he's bringing back Kronos. Also, Zeus is a fool to not listen to Percy in the last book, being like, he's probably gonna bring back Kronos, and he was like, I have bigger concerns right now, or whatever he said. Like, someone piecing Kronos back together is not high on your priority list. Crazy. Okay, like, it's like, not only do we now have, you know, the trouble at camp and Clarice is going on this quest, we don't know if Grover is going to be able to convince this Cyclops to keep him alive enough for Percy to save him. Also, they have a soul link, so maybe Percy could die if Grover dies. And we need to save Thalia's tree, but now it's like, we actively know that Luke is bringing back the Titan Lord. Like, that's crazy. Chapter 10. We hitch a ride with dead Confederates. "Thermos!" I screamed as we hurtled towards the water. "What?" Annabeth must have thought I lost my mind. She was holding onto the boat straps for dear life, her hair flying straight up like a torch. But Tyson understood. He managed to open my duffel bag and take out Hermes' magical thermos without losing his grip on it or the boat. Arrows and javelins whistled past us. I grabbed the thermos and hoped I was doing the right thing. "Hang on! I am hanging on!" Annabeth yelled. "Tighter!" I hooked my feet under the boat's inflatable bench, and as Tyson grabbed Annabeth and me by the back of our shirts, I gave the thermos cap a quarter turn. Instantly, a white sheet of wind jetted out of the thermos and propelled us sideways, turning our downward plummet into a 45-degree crash landing. The wind seemed to laugh as it shot from the thermos, like it was glad to be free. As we hit the ocean, we bumped once, twice, skipping like a stone, and then we were whizzing along like a speedboat, salt spray in our air and nothing but sea ahead. I heard a wail of outrage from the ship behind us, but we were already out of weapon range. The Princess Andromeda faded to the size of a white toy boat in the distance, and then it was gone. As we raced over the sea, Annabeth and I tried to send an iris message to Chiron. We figured it was important we let somebody know what Luke was doing, and we didn't know who else to trust. The wind from the thermos stirred up a nice sea spray that made a rainbow in the sunlight. Perfect for an iris message, but our connection was still poor. When Annabeth threw a gold drachma into the mist and prayed for the rainbow goddess to show us Chiron, His face appeared all right, but there was some kind of weird strobe light flashing in the background and rock music blaring, like he was at a dance club. We told him about sneaking away from camp, and Luke and the Princess Andromeda and the golden box for Kronos' remains. But between the noise on his end and the rushing wind and water on our end, I'm not sure how much he heard. "Percy!" Chiron yelled. "You have to watch out for—" His voice was drowned out by loud yelling behind him, a bunch of voices whooping it up like Comanche warriors. "What?" I yelled. "Curse my relatives!" Chiron ducked as a plate flew over his head and shattered somewhere out of sight. "Annabeth, you shouldn't have let Percy leave camp. But if you do get the fleece—" "Yeah, baby!" someone behind Chiron yelled. "Woohoo!" The music got cranked up, subwoofers so loud it made our boat vibrate. The music got... Oh, that's what I just read. "Miami!" Chiron was yelling. "I'll try to keep watch!" Our misty screen smashed apart like someone on the other side had thrown a bottle at it, and Chiron was gone. An hour later, we spotted land, a long stretch of beach lined with high-rise hotels. The water became crowded with fishing boats and tankers. A Coast Guard cruiser passed on our starboard side, and then turned like it wanted a second look. I guess it isn't every day they see a yellow lifeboat with no engine going 100 knots an hour, manned by 3 kids. "That's Virginia Beach," Annabeth said as we approached the shoreline. "Oh my gods, how did the Princess Andromeda travel so far overnight? That's like 530 nautical miles," I said. She stared at me. "How did you know that? I'm not sure." Annabeth thought for a moment. "Percy, what's our position?" 30 degrees, 44 minutes north, 76 degrees, 2 minutes west, I said immediately. Then I shook my head. "Whoa, how did I know that?" "Because of your dad," Annabeth guessed. "When you're at sea, you have perfect bearings." "That is so cool." I wasn't sure about that. I didn't want to be a human GPS unit. But before I could say anything, Tyson tapped my shoulder. "Other boat is coming." I looked back. The Coast Guard vessel was definitely on our tail now. Its lights were flashing and it was gaining speed. "We can't let them catch us," I said. "They'll ask too many questions." "Keep going into Chesapeake Bay," Annabeth said. "I know a place we can hide." I didn't ask what she meant, or how she knew the area so well. I risked loosening the thermos cap a little more, and a fresh burst of wind sent us rocketeering around the northern tip of the... sent us rocketing around the northern tip of Virginia Bay into Chesapeake Bay. The Coast Guard boat felt farther and farther behind. We didn't slow down until the shores of the bay narrowed on either side, and I realized we entered the mouth of a river. I could feel the change from salt water to fresh water. Suddenly, I was tired and frazzled, like I was coming down off a sugar high. I didn't know where I was anymore, or which way to steer the boat. It was a good thing Annabeth was directing me. "There," she said, "past that sandbar." We veered into a swampy area choked with marsh grass. I beached the lifeboat at the foot of a giant cypress. Vine-covered trees loomed above us. Insects chirred in the woods. The air was muggy and hot, and steam curled off the river. Basically, it wasn't Manhattan, and I didn't like it. "Come on," Annabeth said. "It's just down the bank." "What is?" I asked. "Just follow." She grabbed a duffel bag. "And we'd better cover the boat. We don't want to draw attention." After burying the lifeboat with branches, Tyson and I followed Annabeth along the shore, our feet sinking in red mud. A snake slithered past my shoe and disappeared into the grass. "Not a good place," Tyson said. He swatted the mosquitoes that were forming a buffet line on his arm. After a few minutes, Annabeth said, "Here." All I saw was a patch of brambles. Then Annabeth moved aside a woven circle of branches, like a door, and I realized I was looking into a camouflage shelter. The inside was big enough for 3, even with Tyson being the 3rd. The walls were woven from plant material, like a Native American hut, but they looked pretty waterproof. Stacked in the corner was everything you could want for a campout. Sleeping bags, blankets, an ice chest, and a kerosene lamp. There were demigod provisions, too. Bronze javelin tips, a quiver full of arrows, an extra sword, and a box of ambrosia. The place smelled musty, like it had been vacant for a long time. "A half-blood hideout." I looked at Annabeth in awe. "You made this place?" "Thalia and I," she said quietly. "And Luke." That shouldn't have bothered me. I mean, I knew Thalia and Luke had taken care of Annabeth when she was little. I knew the 3 of them had been runaways together, hiding from monsters, surviving on their own before Grover found them, and tried to get them to Half-Blood Hill. But whenever Annabeth talked about the time she spent with them, I kind of felt, I don't know, uncomfortable? No, that's not the word. The word was jealous. So, I said. You don't think Luke will look for us here? She shook her head. We made a dozen safe houses like this. I doubt Luke even remembers where they are. Or cares. She threw herself down on the blankets and started going through her duffel bag. Her body language made it pretty clear she didn't want to talk. Tyson, I said, would you mind scouting around outside? Like, look for a wilderness convenience store or something? Convenience store? Yeah, for snacks. Powdered donuts or something? Just don't go too far. Powdered donuts, Tyson said earnestly. I will look for powdered donuts in the wilderness. He headed outside and started calling, Here, donuts! Once he was gone, I sat down across Annabeth. Hey, I'm sorry about, seeing Luke. It's not your fault. She unsheathed her knife and started cleaning the blade with a rag. He let us go too easily, I said. I hoped I'd been imagining it, but Annabeth nodded. I was thinking the same thing. What we overheard him say about a gamble and they'll take the bait, I think he was talking about us. To fleece is the bait? Or Grover? She studied the edge of her knife. I don't know, Percy. Maybe he wants the fleece for himself. Maybe he's hoping we'll do the hard work and then he can steal it from us. I just can't believe he would poison the tree. What did he mean? I asked, that Thalia would have been on his side. He's wrong. You don't sound sure. Annabeth glared at me and I started to wish I hadn't asked her about this while she was holding a knife. Percy, you know who you remind me of most? Thalia. You guys are so much alike, it's scary. I mean, either you would have been best friends or you would have strangled each other. Let's go with best friends. Thalia got angry with her dad sometimes. So do you. Would you turn against Olympus because of that? I stared at the quiver of arrows in the corner. No. Okay then. Neither would she. Luke's wrong. Annabeth stuck her knife blade into the dirt. I wanted to ask her about the prophecy Luke had mentioned and what it had to do with my 16th birthday, but I figured she wouldn't tell me. Chiron had made it pretty clear that I wasn't allowed to hear it until the gods decided otherwise. So what did Luke mean about Cyclopses? I asked. He said you of all people. I know what he said. He was talking about the real reason Thalia died. I waited, not sure what to say. Annabeth drew a shaky breath. You can never trust a Cyclops, Percy. 6 years ago, on the night Grover was leading us to Half-Blood Hill. She was interrupted when the door of the hut creaked open. Tyson crawled in. Powdered donuts! He said proudly, holding up a pastry box. Annabeth stared at him. Where did you get that? We're in the middle of the wilderness. There's nothing around for 50 feet, Tyson said. Monster donut shop, just over the hill. This is bad, Annabeth muttered. We were crouching behind a tree, staring at the donut shop in the middle of the woods. It looked brand new, with brightly lit windows, a parking area, and a little road leading off into the forest, but there was nothing else around, and no cars parked in the lot. We could only see one employee reading a magazine from behind the cash register. That was it. On the store's marquee, in huge black letters that even I could read, it said, Monster Donut. I love Tyson. Tyson's like, I'm gonna go find donuts in the woods, as if that's possible. I mean, I guess it was. I love Tyson. A cartoon ogre was taking a bite out of the O in Monster. The place smelled good, like fresh baked chocolate donuts. This shouldn't be here, Annabeth whispered. It's wrong. What? I asked. It's a donut shop. Shh. Why are we whispering? Tyson went in and bought a dozen. Nothing happened to him. He's a monster. Oh, come on, Annabeth. Monster Donut doesn't mean monsters. It's a chain. We've got them in New York. A chain, she agreed. And don't you think it's strange that one appeared immediately after you told Tyson to get donuts? Right here in the middle of the woods? I thought about it. It did seem a little weird, but, I mean, donut shops weren't real high on my list of sinister forces. It could be a nest, Annabeth explained. Tyson whimpered. I doubt he understood what Annabeth was saying any better than I did, but her tone was making him nervous. He'd plowed through half a dozen donuts from his face. He'd plowed through half a dozen donuts from his box and was getting powdered sugar all over his face. A nest for what? I asked. Haven't you ever wondered how franchise stores pop up so fast? She asked. One day there's nothing, and then next day, boom, there's a new burger place or coffee shop or whatever. First a single store, then 2, then 4. Exact replicas spreading across the country. No, never thought about it. Percy, some of the chains multiply so fast because all their locations are magically linked to the life force of a monster. Some children of Hermes figured out how to do it back in the 1950s. They bred... She froze. What? I demanded. They bred what? No. Sudden movements, Annabeth said, like her life depended on it. Very slowly. Turn around. Then I heard it. A scraping noise. Like something large dragging its belly through the leaves. I turned and saw a rhino-sized thing moving through the shadow of the trees. It was hissing, its front half writhing in all different directions. I couldn't understand what I was seeing at first. And then I realized the thing had multiple necks, at least 7, each topped with the hissing reptilian head. Its skin was leathery, and under each neck it wore a plastic bib that read, "I'm a donut monster kid." I took out my ballpoint pen, but Annabeth locked eyes with me, a silent warning. Not yet. I understood. A lot of monsters have terrible eyesight. It was possible that the Hydra might pass us by, but if I uncapped my sword now, the bronze glow would certainly get its attention. We waited. The Hydra was only a few feet away. It seemed to be sniffing the ground and the trees like it was hunting for something. Then I noticed that 2 of its heads were ripping apart a piece of yellow canvas, one of our duffel bags. The thing had already been to our campsite. It was following our scent. My heart pounded. I'd seen a stuffed Hydra head trophy at camp before, but that did nothing to prepare me for the real thing. Each head was diamond-shaped, like a rattlesnake's, but the mouths were lined with jagged rows of shark-like teeth. Tyson was trembling. He stepped back and accidentally snapped a twig. Immediately, all 7 heads turned towards us and hissed. "Scatter!" Annabeth yelled. She dove to the right. I rolled to the left. One of the Hydra heads spat an arc of green liquid that shot past my shoulder and splashed against an elm. The trunk smoked and began to disintegrate. The whole tree toppled straight toward Tyson, who still hadn't moved, petrified by the monster that was now right in front of him. "Tyson!" I tackled him with all my might, knocking him aside just as the Hydra lunged and the tree crashed on top of 2 of its head. The Hydra stumbled backwards, yanking its heads free, then wailing in outrage at the fallen tree. All 7 heads shot acid, and the elm melted into a steaming pool of muck. "Move!" I told Tyson. I ran to one side and uncapped Riptide, hoping to draw the monster's attention. It worked. The sight of celestial bronze is hateful to most monsters. As soon as my glowing blade appeared, the Hydra whipped towards it with all its heads, hissing and baring its teeth. The good news, Tyson was momentarily out of danger. The bad news, I was about to be melted into a puddle of goo. One of the heads snapped at me experimentally. Without thinking, I swung my sword. "No!" Annabeth yelled. Too late. I sliced the Hydra head clean off. It rolled away into the grass, leaving a flailing stump, which immediately stopped bleeding and began to swell like a balloon. In a matter of seconds, the wounded neck split into 2 necks, each of which grew a full-size head. Now I was looking at an 8-headed Hydra. "Percy!" Annabeth scolded. "You just opened a monster donut shop somewhere." I dodged a spray of acid. "I'm about to die, and you're worried about that? How do we kill it?" "Fire," Annabeth said. "We have to have fire." As soon as she said that, I remembered the story. The Hydra's heads would only stop multiplying if we burned the stumps before they regrew. That's what Hercules had done anyways. But we had no fire. I backed up towards the river. The Hydra followed. Annabeth moved in on my left and tried to distract one of the heads, paring its teeth with her knife, but another head swung sideways like a club and knocked her into the muck. "No hitting my friends!" Tyson charged in, putting himself between the Hydra and Annabeth. As Annabeth got to her feet, Tyson started smashing at the monster's head with his fist so fast it reminded me of the whack-a-mole game at the arcade. But even Tyson couldn't fend off the Hydra forever. We kept inching backwards, dodging acid splashes and deflecting snapping heads without cutting them off. But I knew we were only postponing our deaths. Eventually, we would make a mistake and the thing would kill us. Then I heard a strange sound. A chug, chug, chug that at first I thought was my heartbeat. It was so powerful it made the riverbank shake. "What's that sound?" Annabeth shouted, keeping her eyes on the Hydra. "Steam engine," Tyson said. "What?" I ducked as the Hydra spat acid over my head. Then, from the river behind us, a familiar female voice shouted, "There! Prepare the 32-pounder!" I didn't dare look away from the Hydra, but if that was who I thought it was behind us, I figured we now had enemies on 2 fronts. A gravelly male voice said, "They're too close, milady!" "Darn the heroes," the girl said. "Full steam ahead!" "Aye, milady! Fire at will, Captain!" Annabeth understood what was happening a split second before I did. She yelled, "Hit the dirt!" And we dove for the ground and an earth-shattering boom echoed from the river. There was a flash of light, a column of smoke, and the Hydra exploded right in front of us, showering us with nasty green slime that vaporized as soon as they hit, the way monster guts tend to do. Gross! Screamed Annabeth. Steamship! Yelled Tyson. I stood, coughing from the cloud of gunpowder smoke that was rolling across the banks. Chugging towards us down the river was the strangest ship I'd ever seen. It rode low in the water like a submarine, its deck plated with iron. In the middle was a trapezoid-shaped casemate with slats on each side for cannons. A flag waved from the top, a wild boar and spear on a blood-red field. Lining the deck were zombies in gray uniforms, dead soldiers with shimmering faces that only partially covered their skulls, like the ghouls I'd seen in the underground guarding Hades' palace. The ship was an ironclad, a Civil War battlecruiser. I could just make out the name along the prow in the moss-covered letters. CSS Birmingham. And standing next to the smoking cannon that had almost killed us, wearing full Greek battle armor, was Clarice. Cloosers, she sneered, but I suppose I have to rescue you. Come aboard. I don't... Clarice is gonna save us? No. Just kidding. I don't mind Clarice. I understand her beef with Percy because he was like the newbie and immediately got sent on a quest, fought a monster, like got all this glory for a little bit, and she's like, you know, a daughter of Ares, so I know she's probably vying to show her battle prowess somewhere that isn't camp, you know? Probably exactly what Annabeth felt when she was telling Percy, like, hey, you're training your whole life for this, and then you're just stuck at camp. Like, I totally understand Annabeth. So I totally understand Clarice, but also, like, because of who Percy is related to is why he got sent on the quest. So, like, it's not really his fault. He didn't even know about this. He didn't really want to do this to begin with. So, like, I feel kind of bad for Percy because that beef with Clarice is way more intense and feels more one-sided than it should be. Because obviously Percy had his moments where he was like, I suggest if you don't want to get, Percy's a lot better at one-liners than I am. But, you know, when Percy was like, I will douse you in bathroom water again if you don't leave right now. Like, you know, like... So, like, obviously I feel like they would have beef anyway. But I feel like him being who he is makes it worse, you know? I don't know. I am nervous to see what Clarice says. Chapter 11. Clarice blows up everything. You are in so much trouble, Clarice said. We just finished a ship tour we didn't want, through dark rooms overcrowded with dead sailors. We'd seen the coal bunker, the boilers and engine, which huffed and groaned like it would explode any minute. We'd seen the pilot house and the powder magazine and gunnery deck, Clarice's favorite, with 2 Dahlgren smooth-bored cannons on this port and starboard sides, and a Brook 9-inch rifled gun fore and aft, all specially refitted to fire celestial bronze cannonballs. Everywhere we went, dead Confederate sailors stared at us, their ghostly bearded faces shimmering over their skulls. They approved of Annabeth because she told them she was from Virginia. They were interested in me, too, because my name was Jackson, like the Southern general. But then I ruined it by telling them I was from New York. They all hissed and muttered curses about Yankees. Tyson was terrified of them. All through the tour, he insisted Annabeth hold his hand, which she didn't look too thrilled about. Finally, we were escorted to dinner. The SS Birmingham cabin's quarters. The SS Birmingham captain's quarters were about the size of a walk-in closet, but still much bigger than any of the other rooms on board. The table was set with white linen and china. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, potato chips, and Dr. Peppers were served by skeletal crewmen. I didn't want to eat anything served by ghosts, but my hunger overruled my fear. Tantalus expelled you for eternity, Clarice told us smugly. Mr. D said if any of you show your faces at camp again, he'll turn you into squirrels and run you over with his SUV. Did they give you the ship? I asked. Of course not. My father did. Ares? Clarice sneered. You think your daddy is the only one with sea power? The spirits on the losing side of every war owe a tribute to Ares. That's their curse for being defeated. I prayed to my father for a naval transport, and here it is. These guys will do anything I tell them. Won't you, Captain? The captain stood behind her, looking stiff and angry. His glowing green eyes fixed me with a hungry stare. If it means an end to this infernal war, ma'am, peace at last, we'll do anything. Destroy anyone. Clarice smiled. Destroy anyone? I like that. Tyson gulped. Clarice, Annabeth said. Luke might be after the fleas too. We saw him. He's got the coordinates and he's heading south. He has a cruise ship full of monsters. Good! I'll blow him out of the water. You don't understand, Annabeth said. We have to combine forces. Let us help you. No! Clarice pounded the table. This is my quest, smart girl. Finally, I get to be the hero, and you two will not steal my chance. Where are your cabin mates? I asked. You were allowed to take 2 friends with you, weren't they? They didn't, and I let them stay behind to protect the camp. You mean even the people in your own cabin wouldn't help you? Shut up, Prissy. I don't need them, or you. Clarice, I said, Tantalus is using you. He doesn't care about the camp. He'd love to see it destroyed. He's setting you up to fail. No, I don't care what the Oracle... She stopped herself. What? I said, what did the Oracle tell you? Nothing. Clarice's ears turned pink. All I need to know is that I'm finishing this quest and you're not helping. On the other hand, I can't let you go. So we're prisoners? Annabeth asked. Guests, for now. Clarice propped her feet up on the white linen tablecloth and opened another Dr. Pepper. Captain, take them below. Assign them hammocks on the berth deck. If they don't mind their manners, show them how we deal with enemy spies. The dream came as soon as I fell asleep. Grover was sitting at his loom, desperately unraveling his wedding train, as the boulder rock rolled aside and the Cyclops bellowed, Aha! Grover yelped, Dear, I did it! You were so quiet! Unraveling! Polyphemus roared, So that's the problem! Oh no, I wasn't... Come! Polyphemus grabbed Grover around the waist and half carried, half dragged him through the tunnels of the cave. Grover struggled to keep his high heels on his hooves. His veil kept tilting on his head, threatening to come off. The Cyclops pulled him into a warehouse-sized cavern decorated with sheep junk. There was wool-covered lazy boy recliner and a wool-covered television set, crude bookshelf loaded with sheep collectibles, coffee mugs shaped like sheep heads, plastic figurines of sheep, sheep board games, and picture books and action figures. The floor was littered with piles of sheep bones and other bones that didn't look exactly like sheep. The bones of satyrs who'd come to the island looking for Pan. Polyphemus set Grover down only long enough to move another huge boulder. Daylight streamed into the cave, and Grover whimpered with longing. Fresh air! The Cyclops dragged him outside to the hilltop overlooking the most beautiful island I'd ever seen. It was shaped kind of like a saddle cut in half by an axe. There were lush green hills on either side and a wide valley in the middle, split by a deep chasm that was spanned by a rope bridge. Beautiful streams rolled to the edge of the canyon and dropped off in rainbow-colored waterfalls. Parrots fluttered in the trees. Pink and purple flowers bloomed in the bushes. Hundreds of sheep grazed in the meadow, their wool glinting strangely like copper and silver coins. At the center of the island, right next to the rope bridge, was an enormous twisted oak tree with something glittering in its lowest bough. The golden fleece. Even in a dream I could feel its power radiating across the island, making the grass greener, the flowers more beautiful. I could almost smell the nature magic at work. I could only imagine how powerful the scent would be for a satyr. Grover whimpered. Yes, Polyphemus said proudly. See over there? Fleece is the prize of my collection. Stole it from heroes long ago, and ever since, free food. Satyrs come from all over the world like moths to flame. Satyrs good eating. And now... Polyphemus scooped up a wicked set of bronze shears. Grover yelped, but Polyphemus just picked up the nearest sheep like it was a stuffed animal and shaved off its wool. He handed a fluffy mass of it to Grover. Put that on the spinning wheel, he said proudly. Magic. Cannot be unraveled. Oh, well, poor Honey Pie. Polyphemus grinned. Bad weaver. Haha. Not to worry. That thread will solve problems. Finish wedding trade by tomorrow. Isn't that thoughtful of you? Hee hee. But dear, Grover gulped, what if someone were to attack this island? Grover looked straight at me and I knew he was asking for my benefit. What would keep them from marching right up here to your cave? Wifey scared. So cute. Not to worry. Polyphemus has state-of-the-art security system. Have to get through my pets. Pets? Grover looked across the island, but there was nothing to see except sheep grazing peacefully in the meadows. And then, Polyphemus growled, they would have to get through me. He pounded his fist against the nearest rock, which cracked and split in half. Now come, he shouted, back to the cave. Grover looked about ready to cry, so close to freedom, but so hopelessly far. Tears welled in his eyes as the boulder door rolled shut, sealing him once again in the stinky, torch-lit dankness of the Cyclops' cave. I woke to alarm bells ringing throughout the ship. The captain's gravelly voice. All hands on deck. Find Lady Clarice. Where is that girl? Then his ghostly face appeared above me. Get up, Yankee. Your friends are already above. We are approaching the entrance. The entrance to what? He gave me a skeletal smile. The Sea of Monsters, of course. I stuffed my few belongings that had survived the Hydra into a sailor's canvas knapsack and slung it over my shoulder. I had a sneaking suspicion that one way or another I would not be spending another night aboard the CSS Birmingham. I was on my way upstairs when something made me freeze. A presence nearby, something familiar and unpleasant. For no particular reason, I felt like picking a fight. I wanted to punch a dead Confederate. The last time I'd felt that kind of anger. Instead of going up, I crept to the edge of the ventilation grate and peered down into the boiler deck. Clarice was standing right below me, talking to an image that shimmered in the steam from the boilers. A muscular man in black leather biker clothes with a military haircut, red-tinted sunglasses, and a knife strapped to his side. My fists clenched. It was my least favorite Olympian. Ares, the god of war. I don't want excuses, little girl, he growled. Yes, father, Clarice mumbled. You don't want to see me mad, do you? No, father. No, father, Ares mimicked. You're pathetic. I should have let one of my sons take this quest. I'll succeed, Clarice promised, her voice trembling. I'll make you proud. You'd better, he warned. You asked me for this quest, girl. If you let that slimeball Jackson kid steal it from you... But the oracle said, I don't care what it said, Ares bellowed with such force that his image shimmered. You will succeed. And if you don't... He raised his fist. Even though he was only a figure in the steam, Clarice flinched. Do we understand each other? Ares growled. The alarm bells rang again. I heard voices coming towards me, officers yelling orders to ready the cannons. I crept back from the ventilation grate and made my way upstairs to join Annabeth and Tyson on the spar deck. What's wrong? Annabeth asked me. Another dream? I nodded, but didn't say anything. I didn't know what to think about what I'd seen downstairs. It bothered me almost as much as the dream about Clover. Clarice came up the stairs right after me. I tried not to look at her. She grabbed a pair of binoculars from a zombie officer and peered towards the horizon. At last. Captain, full steam ahead. I looked in the same direction as she was, but I couldn't see much. The sky was overcast. The air was hazy and humid, like steam from an iron. If I squinted real hard, I could just make out a couple of dark fuzzy splotches in the distance. My nautical senses told me we were somewhere off the coast of northern Florida, so we'd come a long way overnight, farther than any mortal ship should have been able to travel. The engine groaned as we increased speed. Tyson muttered nervously. Too much strain on the pistons, not meant for deep water. I wasn't sure how we knew that, but it made me nervous. After a few more minutes, the dark splotches ahead of us came into focus. To the north, a huge mass of rock rose out from the sea. An island with cliffs with at least 100 feet tall. About half-mile south of that, the other patch of darkness was a storm brewing. The sky and sea boiled together in a roaring mass. Hurricane? Annabeth asked. No, Clarice said. Charybdis. Annabeth paled. Are you crazy? Only way into the Sea of Monsters. Straight between Charybdis and her sister Skyla. Clarice pointed to the top of the cliffs, and I got a feeling something lived up there that I did not want to meet. What do you mean the only way? I asked. The sea is wide open. Just sail around them. Clarice rolled her eyes. Don't you know anything? If I tried to sail around them, they would just appear in my path again. If you want to get into the Sea of Monsters, you have to sail through them. What about the clashing rocks? Annabeth said. That's another gateway. Jason used it. I can't blow apart rocks with my cannons, Clarice said. Monsters, on the other hand. You are crazy, Annabeth decided. Watch and learn, wise girl. Clarice turned to the captain. Set course for Charybdis. Aye, milady. The engine groaned, the iron plating rattled, and the ship began to pick up speed. Clarice, I said, Charybdis sucked up the sea. Isn't that the story? And spits it back out again, yeah. What about Skyla? She lives in a cave up on those cliffs. If we get too close, her snaky heads will come down and start plucking sailors off the ship. Choose Skyla, then, I said. Everyone goes below deck and we chug right past. No, Clarice insisted. If Skyla doesn't get her easy meat, she might pick up the whole ship. Besides, she's too high to make a good target. My cannons can't shoot straight up. Charybdis just sits there in the center of a whirlwind. We're going to steam straight towards her, train our guns on her, and blow her to Tartarus. She said it with such relish, I almost wanted to believe her. The engine hummed. The boilers were heating up so much I could feel the deck getting warm beneath my feet. The smokestacks billowed. The red Ares flag whipped in the wind. As we got closer to the monsters, the sound of Charybdis got louder and louder, a horrible wet roar like the galaxy's biggest toilet being flushed. Every time Charybdis inhaled, the ship shuddered and lurched forward. Every time she exhaled, we rose in the water and were buffeted by 10-foot waves. I tried to time the whirlpool. As near as I could figure, it took Charybdis about 3 minutes to suck up and destroy everything within a half-mile radius. To avoid her, we would have to skirt right next to Scylla's cliffs, and as bad as Scylla might be, those cliffs were looking awfully good to me. Undead sailors calmly went about their business on the spar deck. I guess they'd fought a losing cause before this, so this didn't bother them. Or maybe they just didn't care about getting destroyed because they were already deceased. Neither thought made me feel any better. Annabeth stood next to me, gripping the rail. You still have your full thermos of wind? I nodded. But it's too dangerous to use with the whirlpool like that. More wind might make things worse. What about controlling the water? She said. You're Poseidon's son. You've done it before. She was right. I closed my eyes and tried to calm the sea, but I couldn't concentrate. Charybdis was too loud and powerful. The waves wouldn't respond. I can't, I said miserably. We need a backup plan, Annabeth said. This isn't going to work. Annabeth is right, Tyson said. Engine's no good. What do you mean? She asked. Pressure. Pistons need fixing. Before he could explain, the cosmic toilet flushed with a mighty roar. The ship lurched forward and I was thrown to the deck. We were in the whirlpool. Full reverse! Clarice screamed above the noise. The sea turned around us, waves crashing over the deck. The iron plating was now so hot it steamed. Get us within firing range. Make ready starboard cannons. Dead Confederates rushed back and forth. The propeller grinded into reverse, trying to slow the ship. But we kept sliding towards the center of the vortex. A zombie sailor burst out into the hold and ran to Clarice. His gray uniform was smoking. His beard was on fire. Boiler room overheating, ma'am. She's gonna blow. We'll get down there and fix it. Can't, the sailor yelled. We're vaporizing in the heat. Clarice pounded the side of the casemate. All I need is a few more minutes. Enough to get in range. You're going in too fast, the captain said grimly. Prepare yourself for death. No, Tyson bellowed. I can fix it. Clarice looked at him incredulously. You? He's a Cyclops, Annabeth said. He's immune to fire, and he knows mechanics. Go, yelled Clarice. Tyson, no, I grabbed his arm. It's too dangerous. He patted my hand. Only way, brother. His expression was determined, confident even. I'd never seen him before like this. I will fix it. Be right back. As I watched him follow the smoldering sailor down the hatch, I had a terrible feeling. I wanted to run after him, but the ship lurched again. Then I saw Charybdis. She appeared only a few hundred yards away, through a swirl of mist and smoke and water. The first thing I noticed was the reef, a big crag of coral with a fig tree clinging to the top, an oddly peaceful thing in the middle of a maelstrom. All around it, water curved into a funnel, like light around a black hole. Then I saw the horrible thing anchored to the reef just below the waterline, an enormous mouth with slimy lips and mossy teeth the size of rowboats. And worse, the teeth had braces, bands of corroded, scummy metal with pieces of fish and driftwood and floating garbage stuck between them. Charybdis was an orthodontist nightmare. She was nothing but a huge black maw with bad teeth alignment and a serious overbite, and she'd done nothing for centuries but eat without brushing after meals. As I watched, the entire sea around her was sucked into the void. Sharks, schools of fish, a giant squid, and I realized that in a few seconds that CSS Birmingham would be next. Lady Clarice, the captain shouted. Starboard and forward guns are in range. Fire! Clarice ordered. Three rounds were blasted into the monster's maw. One blew off the edge of an incisor. Another disappeared into her gullet. The third one hit one of Charybdis's retaining bands and shot back at us, snapping the Ares flag off its pole. Again! Clarice ordered. The gunners reloaded, but I knew it was hopeless. We would have to pound the monster 100 more times to do any real damage, and we didn't have that long. We were being sucked in too fast. Then the vibrations in the deck changed. The hum of the engine got stronger and steadier. The ship shuddered and we started pulling away from the mouth. Tyson did it, Annabeth said. Wait, Clarice said. We need to stay close. We'll die, I said. We have to move away. I gripped the rail as the ship fought against the suction. The broken Ares flag raced past us and lodged in Charybdis's braces. We weren't making much progress, but at least we were holding our own. Tyson had somehow given us just enough juice to keep the ship from being sucked in. Suddenly, the mouth snapped shut. The sea died to absolute calm. Water washed over Charybdis. Then, just as quickly as it had closed, the mouth exploded open, spitting out a wall of water, ejecting everything inedible, including our cannonballs, one of which slammed into the side of the CSS Birmingham with a ding like the bell on a carnival game. We were thrown backwards on a wave that must have been 40 feet high. I used all of my willpower to keep the ship from capsizing, but we were still spinning out of control, hurtling towards the cliffs on the opposite side of the strait. Another smoldering sailor burst out of the hold. He stumbled into Clarice, almost knocking them both overboard. "The engine's about to blow!" "Where's Tyson?" I demanded. "Still down there," the sailor said, "holding it together somehow, though I don't know for how much longer." The captain said, "We have to abandon ship." "No," Clarice yelled. "We have no choice, milady. The hull is already cracking apart. She can't—" He never finished his sentence. Quick as lightning, something brown and green shot up from the sky, snatched up the captain and lifted him away. All that was left were his leather boots. "Skyla!" a sailor yelled, as another column of reptilian flesh shot up from the cliffs and snapped him up. It happened so fast, it was like watching a laser beam rather than a monster. I couldn't even make out the thing's face, just a flash of teeth and scales. I uncapped Riptide and tried to swipe at the monster as it carried off another deckhand, but I was way too slow. "Everyone get below!" I yelled. "We can't!" Clarice drew her own sword. "Below deck is in flames!" "Lifeboats!" Annabeth said. "Quick!" "They'll never get clear of the cliffs," Clarice said. "We'll all be eaten." "We have to try. Percy, the thermos! I can't leave Tyson! We have to get the boats ready!" Clarice took Annabeth's command. She and a few of her undead sailors uncovered one of the two emergency rowboats, while Skyla's heads rained from the sky like a meteor shower with teeth, picking off Confederate sailors one after the other. "Get the other boat," I threw Annabeth the thermos. "I'll get Tyson." "You can't," she said. "The heat will kill you." I didn't listen. I ran for the boiler room hatch when suddenly my feet weren't touching the deck anymore. I was flying straight up, the wind whistling in my ears, the side of the cliff only inches from my face. Skyla had somehow caught me by the knapsack and was lifting me towards her lair. Without thinking, I swung her sword behind me and managed to jab the thing in her beady yellow eye. She grunted and dropped me. The fall would have been bad enough, considering I was 100 feet in the air. But as I fell, the CSS Birmingham exploded below me. Karoom. The engine room blew, sending chunks of ironclad flying in either direction like a fiery set of wings. "Tyson!" I yelled. The lifeboats had managed to get away from the ship, but not very far. Flaming wreckage was raining down. Clarice and Annabeth would either be smashed or burned or pulled to the bottom by the force of the sinking hull, and that was thinking optimistically, assuming they got away from Skyla. Then, I heard a different kind of explosion. The sound of Hermes' magic thermos being opened a little too far. White sheets of wind blasted in every direction, scattering the lifeboats, lifting me out of my free fall and propelling me across the ocean. I couldn't see anything. I spun in the air, got clonked on the head by something hard, and hit the water with a crash that would have broken every bone in my body if I hadn't been the son of the sea god. The last thing I remembered was sinking in a burning sea, knowing that Tyson was gone forever, and wishing I were able to drown. No! No! Tyson! This is all sorts of bad. Tyson? Probably exploded. But he's also a Cyclops. Can Cyclops... Does an explosion count as very hot? I don't know. Clarice and Annabeth? Gone? Maybe? Hopefully they escaped? Percy Jackson? Head trauma. This is all sorts of bad. I'm kind of glad we're not ending there, because I would definitely not want to end there. That is... Can I get 07s in the chat for Tyson? Poor baby. Tyson is very much similar to Percy in the aspect that he's, like, so selfless that he's also, like, no, I want to do this. He's, even though he's a baby in Cyclops years, I love Tyson so much. Okay. I'm actually going to be really sad the more I actually think about it. Okay. Chapter 12. We check into CC's Spa and Resort. I woke up in a rowboat with a makeshift sail stitched of gray uniform fabric. Annabeth sat next to me, tacking into the wind. I tried to sit up and immediately felt woozy. "Rest," she said. "You're going to need it." "Tyson?" I'm gonna cry. She shook her head. "Percy, I'm really sorry." We were silent while the waves tossed us up and down. "He may have survived," She said half-heartedly. I mean, fire can't kill him. I nodded, but I had no reason to feel hopeful. I'd seen that explosion rip through solid iron. If Tyson had been down in the boiler room, there was no way he could have lived. He'd given his life for us, and all I could think about were the times I'd felt embarrassed by him, and I denied that the two of us were related. Waves lapped at the boat. Annabeth showed me something she'd salvaged from the wreckage. Hermes' thermos, now empty. A Ziploc bag full of ambrosia, a couple of sailor shirts, and a bottle of Dr. Pepper. She'd fished me out of the water and found my knapsack, bitten in half by Skyla's teeth. Most of my stuff had floated away, but I still had Hermes bottles of multivitamins, and of course I had Riptide. The ballpoint pen always appeared back in my pocket no matter where I lost it. We sailed for hours. Now that we were in the Sea of Monsters, the water glittered a more brilliant green, like hydra acid. The wind smelled fresh and salty, but it carried a strange metallic scent too, as if a thunderstorm were coming, or something even more dangerous. I knew what direction we needed to go. I knew we were exactly 113 nautical miles west by northwest of our destination, but that didn't make me feel any less lost. No matter which way we turned, the sun seemed to shine straight into my eyes. We took turns sipping from the Dr. Pepper, shading ourselves with the sail as best we could, and we talked about my latest dream of Grover. By Annabeth's estimate, we had less than 24 hours to find Grover, assuming my dream was accurate, and assuming the Cyclops Polyphemus didn't change his mind and try to marry Grover earlier. Yeah, I said bitterly, you can never trust a Cyclops. Annabeth stared across the water. I'm sorry, Percy. I was wrong about Tyson, okay? I wish I could tell him that. I tried to stay mad at her, but it wasn't easy. We'd been through a lot together. She saved my life plenty of times. It was stupid of me to resent her. I looked down at our measly possessions, the empty wind thermos, the bottle of multivitamins. I thought about Luke's look of rage when I tried to talk to him about his dad. Annabeth, what's Chiron's prophecy? She pursed her lips. Percy, I know Chiron promised the gods he wouldn't tell me, but you didn't promise, did you? Knowledge isn't always good for you. Your mom is the wisdom goddess. I know. But every time heroes learn the future, they try to change it, and it never works. The gods are worried about something I'll do when I get older, I guessed. Something when I turn 16? Annabeth twisted her Yankees cap in her hands. Percy, I don't know the full prophecy, but it warns about a half-blood child of the Big Three. The next one who lives to the age of 16. That's the real reason Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades swore a pact after World War III not to have any more kids. The next child of the Big Three who reaches 16 will be a dangerous weapon. Why? Because that hero will decide the fate of Olympus. He or she will make a decision that either saves the Age of Gods or destroys it. I let that sink in. I don't get seasick, but I suddenly felt ill. That's why Kronos didn't kill me last summer. She nodded. You could be very useful to him. If he can get you on his side, the gods will be in serious trouble. But if it's me in the prophecy, we'll only know that if you survive 3 more years. That can be a long time for a half-blood. When Chiron first learned about Thalia, he assumed she was the one in the prophecy. That's why he was so desperate to get her safely to camp. Then she went down fighting and got turned into a pine tree, and none of us knew what to think. Until you came along. On our port side, a spiky green dorsal fin about 15 feet long curled out of the water and disappeared. The kid in the prophecy, he or she couldn't be like a Cyclops? I asked. The Big Three have lots of monster children. Annabeth shook her head. The oracle said half-blood. That always means half-human, half-god. There's really no one alive who it could be, except you. Then why do the gods even let me live? It would be safer to kill me. You're right. Thanks a lot. Percy, I don't know. I guess some of the gods would like to kill you, but they're afraid of offending Poseidon. Other gods, maybe they're still watching you, trying to decide what kind of hero you're going to be. You could be a weapon for their survival, after all. The real question is, what will you do in 3 years? What decision will you make? Did the prophecy give any hints? Annabeth hesitated. Maybe she would have told me more, but just then a seagull swooped down out of nowhere and landed on our makeshift mast. Annabeth looked startled as the bird dropped a small cluster of leaves into her lap. Land, she said. There's land nearby. I sat up. Sure enough, there was a line of blue and brown in the distance. Another minute and I could make out an island with a small mountain in the center, a dazzling white collection of buildings, a beach dotted with palm trees, and a harbor filled with a strange assortment of boats. The current was pulling our rowboat toward what looked like a tropical paradise. Welcome, said the lady with the clipboard. She looked like a flight attendant. A blue business suit, perfect makeup, hair pulled back into a ponytail. She shook our hands as we stepped onto the dock. With the dazzling smile she gave us, you would have thought we'd just gotten off the Princess Andromeda instead of a banged-up rowboat. Then again, our rowboat wasn't the weirdest ship in the port. Along with a bunch of pleasure yachts, there was a U.S. Navy submarine, several dugout canoes, and an old-fashioned three-mast sailing ship. There was a helipad with the Channel 5 Fort Lauderdale helicopter on it, and a short runway with the Learjet and a propeller plane that looked like a World War II fighter. Maybe they were replicas for tourists to look at or something. "Is this your first time with us?" the clipboard lady inquired. Annabeth and I exchanged looks. Annabeth said, "First time at spa," the lady said as she wrote on her clipboard. "Let's see." She looked us up and down critically. An herbal wrap to start for the young lady, and, of course, a complete makeover for the young gentleman." "A what?" I asked. She was too busy jotting down notes to answer. "Right," she said with a breezy voice. "Well, I'm sure Cece will want to speak with you personally before the luau. Come, please." Now, here's the thing. Annabeth and I were used to traps, and usually those trap looks good at first, so I expected the clipboard lady to turn into a snake or a demon or something any minute. But on the other hand, we'd been floating in a rowboat for most of the day. I was hot, tired, and hungry, and when this lady mentioned a luau, my stomach sat up on its hind legs and begged like a dog. "I guess it couldn't hurt," Annabeth muttered. Of course it could, but we followed the lady anyway. I kept my hands in my pocket where I'd stashed my only magic defenses, Hermes multivitamins and Riptide. But the farther we wandered into the resort, the more I forgot about them. The place was amazing. There was white marble and blue water everywhere I looked. Terraces climbed up the side of the mountain, with swimming pools on every level, connected by water slides and waterfalls, and underwater tubes you could swim through. Fountains sprayed water into the air, forming impossible shapes like flying eagles and galloping horses. Tyson loved horses, and I knew he'd love those fountains. I'd almost turn around to see the expression on his face before I remembered. Tyson was gone. "You okay?" Annabeth asked me. "You look pale." "I'm okay," I lied. "Just let's keep walking." We passed all kinds of tame animals. A sea turtle napped in a stack of beach towels. A leopard stretched out asleep on the diving board. The resort guests, only young women as far as I could see, lounged in deck chairs, drinking fruit smoothies or reading magazines while herbal gunk dried on their faces, and manicurists in white uniforms did their nails. As we headed up a staircase towards what looked like the main building, I heard a woman singing. Her voice drifted up through the air like a lullaby. Her words were in some language other than ancient Greek, but just as old. Minoan, maybe, or something like that. I could understand what she sang about. Moonlight in the olive groves, the colors of the sunrise, and magic. Something about magic. Her voice seemed to lift me off the steps and carry me towards her. We came into a big room where the whole front wall was windows. The back wall was covered in mirrors, so the room seemed to go on forever. There was a bunch of expensive-looking white furniture, and on a table in the corner was a large wire pet cage. The cage seemed out of place, but I didn't think about it too much, because just then I saw the lady who'd been singing, and whoa. She sat at a loom the size of a big TV screen, her hands weaving colored thread back and forth with amazing skill. The tapestry shimmered like it was three-dimensional, a waterfall scene so real I could see the water moving and clouds drifting above a fabric sky. Annabeth caught her breath. "It's beautiful." The woman turned. She was even prettier than her fabric. Her long dark hair was braided with threads of gold. She had piercing green eyes, and she wore a silky black dress with shapes that seemed to move in the fabric. Animal shadows, black upon black, like deers running through a forest at night. "You appreciate weaving, my dear?" the woman asked. "Oh, yes, ma'am," Annabeth said. "My mother is—" She stopped herself. You couldn't just go around announcing that your mom was Athena, the goddess who invented the loom. Most people would just lock you in a rubber room. Our hostess just smiled. "You have good taste, my dear. I'm so glad you've come. My name is Cece." I'm scared. What does Cece stand for? Is she giving siren vibes a little? Also, yeah, Koala, like, why is Percy the only male? As far as we've seen. I don't know, man. The animals in the corner cage started squealing. They must have been guinea pigs from the sounds of them. We introduced ourselves to Cece. She looked me over with a twinge of disapproval, as if I'd failed some kind of test. Immediately, I felt bad. For some reason, I really wanted to please this lady. "Oh dear," she sighed. "You do need my help." "Ma'am?" I asked. Cece called to a lady in the business suit. "Hyla, take Annabeth on a tour, will you? Show her what we have available. The clothing will need to change. And the hair. My goodness. We will do a full image consultation after I've spoken with this young gentleman." "But," Annabeth's voice sounded hurt. "What's wrong with my hair?" Cece smiled benevolently. "My dear, you are lovely, really, but you are not showing off yourself or your talents at all. So much wasted potential." "Wasted? Well, surely you're not happy the way you are. My goodness, there's not a single person who is. But don't worry, we can improve anyone here at the spa. Hyla will show you what I mean. You, my dear, need to unlock your true self. Annabeth's eyes glowed with longing. I'd never seen her so much at a loss for words. But what about Percy? Oh, definitely, Cece said, giving me a sad look. Percy requires my personal attention. He needs much more work than you. Normally, if someone had told me that, I would have gotten angry. But when Cece said it, I felt sad. I disappointed her. I had to figure out how to do better. I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this at all. The guinea pigs squealed like they were hungry. Well, Annabeth said, I suppose. Right this way, dear, Hyla said. And Annabeth allowed herself to be led away into the waterfall-laced gardens of the spa. Cece took my arm and guided me towards the mirrored wall. You see, Percy, to unlock your potential, you need serious help. The first step is admitting you're not happy the way you are. I fidgeted in front of the mirror. I hated thinking about my appearance. Like the first zit that had cropped up on my nose at the beginning of the school year, or the fact that my 2 front teeth weren't perfectly even, or that my hair never stayed straight down. Cece's voice brought all those things to mind, as if she were passing me under a microscope. And my clothes were not cool. I knew that. Who cares, part of me thought, but standing in front of Cece's mirror, it was hard to see anything good about myself. There, Cece consoled. How about we try this? She snapped her fingers, and a sky blue curtain rolled down the mirror. It shimmered like the fabric on her loom. What do you see? Cece asked. I looked at the blue cloth, not sure what she meant. I don't... Then it changed colors. I saw myself, a reflection, but not a reflection. Shimmering there on the cloth was a cooler version of Percy Jackson, with just the right clothes, a confident smile on my face. My teeth were straight, no zits, and the perfect tan. More athletic, maybe a couple of inches taller. It was me, without the faults. Whoa, I managed. Do you want that? Cece asked. Or shall I try a different... No, I said. That's really amazing. Can you really... I can give you a full makeover, Cece promised. What's the catch? I said. I have to, eat a special diet? Oh, it's quite easy, Cece said. Plenty of fresh fruit, a mild exercise program, and of course, this. She stepped over to her wet bar and filled a glass with water. Then she ripped open a drink mix packet and poured in some red powder. The mixture began to glow. When it faded, the drink looked just like a strawberry milkshake. One of these, substitute for a regular meal, Cece said. And I guarantee you'll see results immediately. How is that possible? She laughed. Why question it? I mean, don't you want the perfect you right away? Something nagged at the back of my mind. Why are there no guys at this spa? Oh, but there are, Cece assured me. You'll meet them quite soon. Just try the mixture. You'll see. I looked at the blue tapestry, at the reflection of me, but not me. Now, Percy, Cece chided, the hardest part of the makeover process is giving up control. You have to decide. Do you want to trust your judgment about what you should be, or my judgment? My throat felt dry. I heard myself say, your judgment. Cece smiled and handed me the glass. I lifted it to my lips. It tasted just like it looked, like a strawberry milkshake. Almost immediately, a warm feeling spread through my gut. Pleasant at first, then painfully hot, searing, as if the mixture were coming to a boil inside of me. I doubled over and dropped the cup. What's happening? Don't worry, Percy, Cece said. The pain will pass. Look, as I promised. Immediate results. Something was horribly wrong. The curtain dropped away, and in the mirror I saw my hand shriveling, curling, growing long, delicate claws. Fur sprouted on my face, under my shirt, and in every uncomfortable place you can imagine. My teeth felt too heavy in my mouth. My clothes were getting too big, or Cece was getting too tall. No, I was shrinking. In one awful flash, I sank into a cavern of dark cloth. I was buried in my own shirt. I tried to run, but hands grabbed me, hands as big as I was. I tried to scream for help, but all that came out of my mouth was reet, reet, reet. Giant hands squeezed me around the middle, lifting me into the air. I struggled and kicked with legs and arms that seemed much too stubby, and then I was staring horrified into the enormous face of Cece. Perfect! Her voice boomed. I squirmed in alarm, but she only tightened her grip around my furry belly. See, Percy, you've unlocked your true self. She held me up to the mirror, and what I saw made me scream in terror. There was Cece, beautiful and smiling, holding a fluffy, buck-toothed creature with tiny claws and orange and white fur. When I twisted, so did the furry creature in the mirror. I was I was a guinea pig, Cece said. Lovely, aren't you? Men are pigs, Percy Jackson. I used to turn them into real pigs, but they were so smelly and large and difficult to keep. Not much different than they were before, really. Guinea pigs are much more convenient. Now come and meet the other men. Reet, I protested, trying to scratch her, but Cece squeezed me so tight I almost blacked out. None of that, little one, she scolded, or I'll feed you to the owls. Go into the cage like a good little pet. Tomorrow, if you'll behave, you'll be on your way. There is always a classroom in need of a new guinea pig. My mind was racing as fast as my tiny little heart. I needed to get back to my clothes, which were lying in a heap on the floor. If I could do that, I could get Riptide out of my pocket and what? I couldn't uncap the pen. Even if I did, I couldn't hold the sword. I squirmed helplessly as Cece brought me over to the guinea pig cage and opened the wire door. Meet my discipline problems, Percy, she warned. They'll never make good classroom pets, but they might teach you some manners. Most of them have been in this cage for 300 years, and you don't want to stay with them permanently. I'd suggest you... Annabeth's voice called, Miss Cece? Cece cursed in ancient Greek. She plopped me into the cage and closed the door. I squealed and clawed at the bars, but it was no good. I watched as Cece hurriedly kicked my clothes under the loom just as Annabeth came in. Oh gosh. I almost didn't recognize her. She was wearing a sleeveless silk dress like Cece's, only white. Her blonde hair was newly washed and combed and braided with gold. Worst of all, she was wearing makeup, which I never thought Annabeth would be caught dead in. I mean, she looked good. Really good. I probably would have been tongue-tied if I could have said anything except reet, reet, reet. But there was something totally wrong about it. It just wasn't Annabeth. She looked around the room and frowned. Where's Percy? I squealed up a storm, but she didn't seem to hear me. Cece smiled. He's having one of our treatments, my dear. Not to worry. You look wonderful. What did you think of your tour? Annabeth's eyes brightened. Your library is amazing. Yes, indeed, Cece said. The best knowledge of the past 3 millennia. Anything you want to study, anything you want to be, my dear. An architect? Pah, Cece said. You, my dear, have the makings of a sorceress, like me. Annabeth took a step back. A sorceress? Yes, my dear, Cece held up her hand. A flame appeared in her palm and danced across her fingertips. My mother is Hecate, the goddess of magic. I know a daughter of Athena when I see one. We are not so different, you and I. We both seek knowledge. We both admire greatness. Neither of us needs to stand in the shadow of men. I don't understand. Again, I squealed my best trying to get Annabeth's attention, but either she couldn't hear me or didn't think the noises were important. Meanwhile, the other guinea pigs were emerging from their hutch to check me out. I didn't think it was impossible for guinea pigs to look mean, but these did. There were 6 with dirty fur and cracked teeth and beady red eyes. They were covered in shavings and smelled like they really had been in here for 300 years without getting their cage clean. Stay with me, Cece was telling Annabeth. Study with me. You can join our staff. Become a sorceress. Learn to bend others to your will. You will become immortal. But you are too intelligent, my dear, Cece said. You know better than to trust that silly camp for heroes. How many great female half-blood heroes can you name? Atalanta? Amelia Earhart? Bah, men get all the glory. Cece closed her fist and extinguished the magic flame. The only way to power for women is sorcery. Medea, Calypso, now they were powerful women. And me, of course, the greatest of all. You, Cece, Circe. Yes, my dear. Annabeth backed up and Circe laughed. You need not worry. I mean you no harm. What have you done to Percy? Only help him realize his true form. Annabeth scanned the room. Finally, she saw the cage and saw me scratching at the bars, all the other guinea pigs crowding me. Her eyes went wide. Forgive him, Circe said. Join me and learn the ways of sorcery. But your friend will be well cared for. He'll be shipped to a wonderful new home on the mainland. The kindergartners will adore him. Meanwhile, you will be wise and powerful. You will have all you ever wanted. Annabeth was still staring at me, but she had a dreamy expression on her face. She looked the same way I had when Circe enchanted me into drinking the guinea pig milkshake. I squealed and scratched, trying to warn her to snap out of it, but I was absolutely powerful. Let me think about it, Annabeth murmured. Just give me a minute alone to say goodbye. Of course, my dear, Circe cooed. 1 minute. Oh, and so you have absolute privacy. She waved her hand and iron bar slammed down over the windows. She swept out of the room, and I heard the locks on the door click shut behind her. The dreamy look melted off Annabeth's face. She rushed over to my cage. All right, which one is you? I squealed, but so did all the other guinea pigs. Annabeth looked desperate. She scanned the room and spotted the cuff of my jeans sticking out from under the loom. Yes. She rushed over and rummaged through my pockets. Instead of bringing out Riptide, she found the bottle of Hermes multivitamins and started struggling with the cap. I wanted to scream at her that this wasn't the time for taking supplements. She had to draw the sword. She popped a lemon chewable in her mouth just as the door flew open and Cersei came back in, flanked by 2 of her business-suited attendants. "Well," Cersei sighed, "how fast a minute passes. What is your answer, my dear?" "This," Annabeth said, and she drew her bronze knife. The sorceress stepped back, but her surprise quickly passed. She sneered. "Really, little girl? A knife against my magic? Is that wise?" Cersei looked back at her attendants, who smiled. They raised their hands as if pretending to cast a spell. "Run!" I wanted to tell Annabeth, but all I could make were rodent noises. The other guinea pigs squealed in terror and scuttled around the cage. I had the urge to panic and hide too, but I had to think of something. I couldn't stand to lose Annabeth the way I lost Tyson. "What will Annabeth's makeover be?" Cersei mused. "Something small and ill-tempered? I know, a shrew!" Blue fire coiled from her fingers, curling like serpents around Annabeth. I watched, horror-struck, but nothing happened. Annabeth was still Annabeth, but only angrier. She leapt forwards and struck the point of her knife against Cersei's neck. "How about turning me into a panther instead? One that has her claws at your throat." "How?" Cersei yelped. Annabeth held up my bottle of vitamins for the sorceress to see. Cersei howled in frustration. "Curse Hermes and his multivitamins. Those are such a fad. They do nothing for you." "Turn Percy back into a human or else," Annabeth said. "I can't." "Then you asked for it." Cersei's attendants stepped forward, but their mistress said, "Get back. She's immune to magic until that cursed vitamin wears off." Annabeth dragged Cersei over to the guinea pig cage, knocked the top off, and poured the rest of the vitamins inside. "No!" Cersei screamed. I was the first to get a vitamin, but all the other guinea pigs scuttled out too and checked out this new food. The first nibble, and I felt all fiery inside. I gnawed at the vitamin until it stopped looking so huge, and the cage got smaller, and then suddenly, bang! The cage exploded. I was sitting on the floor, a human again, somehow back in my regular clothes, thank the gods, with 6 other guys who all looked disoriented, blinking and shaking wood shavings out of their hair. "No!" Cersei screamed. "You don't understand. Those are the worst." One of the men stood up, a huge guy with long, tangled, pitch-black beard and teeth the same color. He wore mismatched clothes of wool and leather, knee-high boots, and a floppy felt hat. The other men were dressed more simply, in breeches and stained white shirts. All of them were barefoot. "Ah!" bellowed the big man. "What's the witch done to me?" "No!" Cersei moaned. Annabeth gasped. "I recognize you. Edward Teach, son of Ares?" "Aye, lass," the big man growled. "The most call me Blackbeard. And there's the sorceress that captured us, lads. Run her through, and then I mean to find me a big bowl of celery. Arg!" Cersei screamed. She and her attendants ran from the room, chased by the pirates. Annabeth sheathed her knife and glared at me. "Thanks," I faltered. "I'm really sorry." Before I could figure out how to apologize for being such an idiot, she tackled me with a hug, then pulled away just as quickly. "I'm glad you're not a guinea pig." "Me too. I hope my face wasn't as red as it felt." She undid the golden braids in my hair. "Come on, Seaweed Braid," she said. "We have got to get away while Cersei's distracted." We ran down the hillside through the terraces, past screaming spa workers and pirates ransacking the resort. Blackbeard's men broke the tiki torches for the luau, threw herbal wrappings into the swimming pool, and kicked over tables of sauna towels. I almost felt bad letting the unruly pirates out, but I guess they deserved something more entertaining than the exercise wheel after being cooped up in a cage for 3 centuries. "Which ship?" Annabeth said as we reached the dock. I looked around desperately. We couldn't very well take our rowboat. We had to get off the island fast, but what else could we use? A sub? A fighter jet? I couldn't pilot any of those things, and then I saw it. "There," I said. Annabeth blinked. "But I can make it work." "How?" I couldn't explain. I just somehow knew an old sailing vessel was the best bet for me. I grabbed Annabeth's hand and pulled her towards the 3-mast ship. Painted on its prow was a name I could only decipher later. Queen Anne's Revenge. "Arg!" Blackbeard yelled somewhere behind us. "Those scallywags are aboarding me vessel. Get them, lads." We'll never get going in time," Annabeth yelled as we climbed aboard. I looked around at the hopeless maze of sails and ropes. The ship was in great condition for a 300-year-old vessel, but it would still take a crew of 50 several hours to get underway. We didn't have several hours. I could see the pirates running down the stairs, waving tiki torches and sticks of celery. I closed my eyes and concentrated on the waves lapping around the hull, the ocean currents, the winds all around me. Suddenly, the right word appeared in my mind. "Mizzenmast!" I yelled. Annabeth looked at me like I was nuts, but in the next second, the air was filled with whistling sounds of ropes being snapped taut, canvases unfurling, and wooden pulleys creaking. Annabeth ducked as a cable flew over her head and wrapped itself around the bowsprit. "Percy, how—" I didn't have an answer, but I could feel the ship responding to me as if it were parts of my body. I willed the sails to rise as easily as if I was flexing my arm. I willed the rudder to turn. The Queen Anne's Revenge lurched away from the dock, and by the time the pirates arrived at the water's edge, we were already underway, sailing into the Sea of Monsters. That's crazy. First of all, you're telling me... Okay, Koala, good guess with the Cersei. Cersei totally makes sense. I need to know how many men she turned into guinea pigs, because that's crazy. Second of all, I think it's funny that Blackbeard is one of these guinea pigs. I wasn't expecting it to be Blackbeard, and I wasn't expecting it to like I don't know. I think it's a good segue into like what that ship is. I think that's so fun. That, you know, he was just turned into a guinea pig. I think that's really funny. Yeah, it helps the plot a tiny bit, but it also makes sense to me that Blackbeard is a son of Ares. That makes sense to me. That was that last chapter had me nervous. I completely forgot that Percy turns into a guinea pig. I did sort of remember. I didn't realize it was this book. That's kind of crazy. I'm glad Percy got un-guinea pigged. I am nervous because Annabeth just dropped all the vitamins into the cage, so I'm scared that they're not gonna have any, and I'm scared that they're not gonna have any for an emergency. I'm a little scared, but we will see. So hopefully it'll be good. For those of you who are still listening, thank you so much for lurking and listening to me read The Sea of Monsters. That is part 2. Join us next week for our last, for the last part of it. Thank you guys so much for joining the second session of The Sea of Monsters. I had so much fun. So much stuff is going on. I'm assuming next time we will see if we can save Grover, get to the actual sea of, or get through the Sea of Monsters. I don't really know. Are we actually past the Sea of Monsters? No, because I'm pretty sure we closed with it saying that we're... Anyways, yeah. Thank you guys for joining. I had so much fun. Next week we will finish it, and then we'll take a little break, and then we'll continue reading The Titan's Curse, I guess. Yeah, thank you for joining. Thank you for lurking.